And we're going live. We're going live. We're live. How about that? Hi, everybody. It's the pre-show for today's SY0-601 Security Plus Study Group. Hello, chat room. Hello, everyone. While we finish this, we can move this off the screen. We're all done with our pre-show info, our podcast intro info. That's not a thing. Let's fix some wires going down my back. There we go. We got the AC on. That's good. We're recording here. We're recording down here. This is all good. That's what we like to see. How's everybody doing? Are we ready for Security Plus today? I am. I am ready. I wrote all of the questions this weekend. We are now ready to make this thing happen. Hey, chat room. Hey, Virginia, and who else is here? Downtown Houston. Houston. Good to have you here. There's Vancouver, British Columbia, West Coast checking in. Good to have you here. Are you Vancouver proper, or are you somewhere outside Vancouver? There's all the little nooks and crannies, all the burbs of that. Jacksonville, there's Jacksonville, I'm assuming Florida. There's Atlantic City. Thanks for being here. I have to make sure I get this right because in the chat room, there's folks from Egypt, from Cairo. Of course, here in the South, we have Cairo, which is slightly different. Hey, Manchester, Corona, California, and Rhode Island, West Virginia, Burnaby. Okay. Saudi Arabia is here. Haiti, Texas, India, D.C., Alabama. Lots of folks checking. I can't even keep up. See it scrolling? You can't see it scrolling. You sort of see it scrolling over here on the right. There's the chat that I'm watching. We're going to start this in about 7 minutes. 7 minutes, we'll get this thing going. We got a lot going on. Folks checking in from Long Island, Colorado Springs, Nigeria, New York, New Jersey, Ontario, California, Minnesota, Dallas, Belgium. We've got Canada again, New York. San Antonio is here. Hello, Phoenix and Mississippi and London. I feel like Romper Room. I see Becky and Jason and Paul, Tiara, and New Jersey and Sacramento and Scully. Why do you do that to me every time? Antigua, Barbuda, thank you for being here. Zurich, Switzerland. The Czech Republic, Rotterdam. We got folks from all over checking in. If you're not in the chat, make sure you jump in there. I'll be watching the chat as we go through this. And of course, I'll be taking questions from the chat in the second hour. So it's always good to get in the chat. There is a chat on my website at professormesser.com/live. There's also the chat on YouTube. It's the same chat. I've just embedded the YouTube chat on my website. So you can't go wrong. Well, I guess you can go wrong, but you know what I'm saying. You know what because we can go wrong. Don't get me started on that. Of course we can go wrong. We can go horribly wrong. But so far so good, right? We're looking really good. The cameras are working. I messed around with cables this week, which is always a bad idea in the studio. But I had to move some cables around because I had an older SAN that I needed to move. Actually, it's a NAS, an older NAS that I needed to move off to another room. So I had to pull things out and cables, and then I disconnected things I really shouldn't have. Oh, there's just so much work that needs to be done. So I think I fixed it. If you are hearing me, and you are, because I checked before we did this. So you're now hearing me. Before, you would have not been able to hear me. You would have been able to see me. It would have sounded normal to me, but you would have heard this. Heard nothing. You would have heard zero. So now it works. Now we're okay. 5 minutes. 5 minutes, Mr. Sinatra. We'll get ready to get this thing going. All new questions, by the way. We got plenty of good questions to go through. If you're someone who is working on Security Plus, you're in the right place. So stick here. We're going to do questions and start this party in about 5 minutes. Get a comfortable chair. Get a cool beverage. We are in triple digits here in Florida today. It's over 100. So you don't want to be outside. We're in this heat wave for the next few days. Well, none of this, of course, will make sense for those of you who are working on something weeks from now, months from now, this won't matter. You may be watching this in the winter, wondering, what's 100 degrees in Florida in the middle of December? No, it's not. But June, first day of summer, yes, it is. 104 in Texas. All right. See, that's what I'm saying. All along the South right now, very hot, very muggy. It'll be this way for about 3 days, and then it goes back to normal, whatever that is. I don't like normal. Nobody likes normal. I want abnormal. And then, of course, we get 102-degree weather. So maybe I shouldn't say that so loudly. The good part is I'm just shooting videos every day or editing videos every day. So to me, I'm inside anyway. So if it's warm outside, I don't know. We'll have to see. Lots to go through. Are the 270 Security Plus questions and answers, I guess you're assuming, talking about my question and answer book, my practice exams book, are they enough to pass the exam? Well, if you use them with all of the other things you have, hopefully you've got a book and you got some videos and you got some hands-on, and there's not any one thing you can do and pass this exam. That's not the kind of exam it is. There are no shortcuts. If there were shortcuts, everybody would have this certification. All right, let's see how we're doing here with audio. Check. Yeah, we're hitting the red. We're pretty good there. Oh, lots to do. Lots to go through. I think I have a lot of good questions we can step through, but we'll figure out as we go through this, everything that we're doing. Makeda in the chat room with a $20 super chat. Thank you so much for that super chat. Makeda puts, I passed my Security Plus exam this past weekend on the first try. It was 7 long months of studying, but so worth it. Thank you, Professor, for all your resources. Greatly appreciated. That's the way you bring it down. You study. You go through all the exam objectives. You learn everything that's in that, and then you go take the exam. Sometimes it takes 3 months. Sometimes it takes 6 months. Sometimes it takes a year. But you did it. So congratulations on your Security Plus. Thank you for the super chat. Completely unnecessary, but definitely thank you. It keeps the lights on, as we say here. So we appreciate your support and your continued support. Congratulations on your Security Plus. And then we have TDM Pro 1776 in the chat room with the $1.99 super chat. Passed the Network Plus 007. Just got in there, right? That particular exam is retired at the end of this month. So you've got the exam passed, so now you're good and you're certified for 3 years. So now you beat the clock. You beat it. Congratulations. And thank you for the $1.99 super chat. We appreciate our super chatters. Thank you so much for that. We're going to get going here in about 1 minute, about 60 seconds, about a little bit more than this. We'll get to this in just a moment. I got all new questions. Stand by for this. Get ready for answering some Q&A today. I don't exactly remember what the questions are, so I need to work on that. We'll discover together. It'll be something new for all of us. I just wrote these questions this weekend, but a lot has happened between this weekend and now. There's just constant motion in this studio. So it's like a long time ago I wrote these questions. We'll have to see. Let's get this MacBook running. Looks good here. Looks good there. I think we're in pretty good shape. I think we're in really good shape. I think we've got everything we need to do a live stream. So it all worked out. It all came together at the last moment. Let's get some of the cameras ready to go. Let's get some of the graphics ready to go. It's top of the hour. It's time to do a study group. Here we go, everybody. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the June 2022 Professor Messer SY0-601 Security Plus Study Group. This is our monthly study group where I ask you questions that come directly from the CompTIA exam objectives, and then you answer them live and online to see how we do. I think this is our great opportunity to see if we can really remember some of these details from the Security Plus exam objectives. Thank you so much for being here. We like to do one of these study groups every month. Make sure you check the calendar on the Professor Messer website if you would like to know where you can go to watch any of these replayed videos Of course, we're saving all of this, and you can go back years and see these Security Plus videos wherever they happen to be. If you are here live, we would love for you to join us. So you can go to professormesser.com/QA, just pop open a new browser window, and I will have questions there. They will automatically rotate through. You just go to that page, and you can answer anything that is there. We'll bring up those questions in just a moment. If you would like to use an app for this, and of course you would, who wouldn't? The app is the Socrative Student app. You don't want to get the Socrative Teacher app. That's the one I use. You want to use the Student app, and it will ask you for a room name. The room name is Professor Messer, all one word. PROFESSORMESSER, spelled out. So make sure you spell it right, because if you don't, you'll be in a room and there's no question. That's how you know you're in the wrong place. So make sure you spell it correctly, and you will see there is a question waiting for you that says, which of the following data types is the most volatile? This is a question, obviously, from last month. It's our opening question. We call it our rewind question to see how well we do. Which of the following data types is the most volatile? Is it backup tapes, temporary files, ARP cache, router configuration, or stored log files? Which of the following data types is the most volatile? Is it backup tapes, temporary files, ARP cache, router configuration, or stored log files? To answer these questions on our live stream, you visit the URL that's on your screen, professormesser.com/QA, to lock in your answer. Please don't put answers in the chat room. Please don't put any hints in the chat room. We'll answer them online at professormesser.com/QA. We will come back to that link in just a moment to see how we did. Thanks for being here. We do one of these every month, as I've said, and I have an archive of these available on YouTube, along with all of my other videos. Of course, my entire Security Plus training course is available on YouTube for free. There's no registration. There's nothing behind a paywall. I don't hold back certain videos. Everything's out there. Go to professormesser.com/YouTube to have a look at those. I have a playlist ready to go for Security Plus. Don't forget about my weekly Security Plus pop quiz questions. They usually come out on a Thursday. You'll find them at professormesser.com/Twitter or professormesser.com/Instagram. Either one of those works pretty good. It's the same question, but Instagram has the pretty picture that comes along with it, and for some reason I like that. So I don't know if any of you watch or look at the Instagram version of this, but it's something I like to do. So there we are. I'm going to keep doing those. They're a lot of fun. Today, we're going to talk about the Security Plus exam, specifically the SY0-601 version, the current version of the Security Plus exam. This is the only version that's available right now. It was released on November the 12th of 2020, and we estimate that this particular version of the exam will retire somewhere around May of 2024. So the takeaway for you, obviously, is that if you're studying for Security Plus, this is the right version of Security Plus, and this version is not going away anytime soon. So you've got all the right materials, you've got the right videos, you've got the right live stream. So now all you have to do is pass the exam. It's a single exam, thankfully. You have 90 minutes to take this exam. You could get a maximum of 90 questions. There might be fewer than 90. And the passing score on a scale from 100 to 900 is a 750. Yeah, I don't understand any of that either, but I think that's in the intention. The point of those scoring the way they do it that way is probably just known to CompTIA, but certainly it's something to think about as you're sitting down for the exam. You must make a 750. That's the number you're looking for. Also, the exam itself is mostly multiple choice, but there are a handful of questions at the beginning that are performance-based questions. We'll talk more about performance-based questions in a bit, and I do have a performance-based question for you today, so stick around for that. Don't forget that everything I make on Security Plus is available in one single package. It's my Success Bundle. You can watch my videos for free online, but some people like to have an offline version of the videos, or they'd like to have MP3 audio versions, or they'd like a copy of my practice exams, or they'd like a copy of my course notes. I've got all of this available along with my Exam Hacks ebook in my Success Bundle. You can find out more about that at professormesser.com/601SB. I've also got some Security Plus questions out on the website. I'm a Take 10 challenge. Go to professormesser.com/Take 10 and you can sample some questions from previous study groups, see how you do with those. Always a good check to see how much you may have remembered from the exam objectives. As I mentioned, this video replay is available immediately afterwards, but I do make an audio-only version replay available in podcast format. If you'd like to subscribe to that or find out more about other podcasts we have, you can find that at professormesser.com/podcast. The RSS links are there, so you can add it to your existing podcast listening program, and it just downloads them automatically. So easy to make that happen. See if you can go through any of the questions in previous versions, and you can listen in on these podcasts when you're traveling, when you're working out, when you're somewhere away from the network. You've already downloaded the file, so you don't have to worry about sitting there and having to stream or having a good connection. It's available on your podcast listening program. If you do head out to YouTube about a day after we do this, there will be a list of timestamps on the video. The replay is available immediately after this, but timestamps show up somehow through magic the day after. It's not really magic. Lori, my marketing manager, goes through and listens to this whole thing and puts timestamps on the video descriptions. I don't know whether to thank her or apologize. Either one of those will work. Thanks, Lori, for doing all of this. And you can go back years, of course, and find the timestamps to really locate exactly what you're looking for on the show. It's in the YouTube video description. You can't miss it at professormesser.com/YouTube. When I'm not here doing a live stream, I'm sleeping. No, that's not true. I work a little bit more than that at times. As they say, I work half days, 8 to 8. Whenever I'm doing that, though, I'm usually on Discord. You can usually find me there. Go to professormesser.com/Discord. I got plenty of people there when I'm not there who can also answer questions. Everybody who's studying together, we get together on Discord and we ask questions of each other. Find it at professormesser.com/Discord. You can also follow the links in the upper right of my website for that same connection. Eventually, you're going to have to take the Security Plus exam. It's true. You could, of course, go to the Pearson VUE website and sign up for the exam and end up paying full price for your voucher. But who wants to pay full price for a voucher? What if there was a voucher that was already discounted, that you didn't have to go and hunt around the internet for a coupon code or hope that it was a certain week or day to get the discount? I don't understand these discount games that other websites do. So instead, I just discount everything and I put the discounted price on my website. So you don't need a code. You don't have to put an extension in your browser. You don't have to wait until everything goes on sale, whatever that means. This is something that's always available to you. And if you purchase the voucher from my website, there is a special bonus. The Exam Hacks ebook is available to you for free. These are tips and tricks that I put together for your study, for taking the exam, and even some tips after the exam. Some of us do need that. It's all there and available. Unfortunately, only available for the U.S. and Canada and some U.S. territories. Sorry about that. I am trying to find a way to make this more of a worldwide offering, but currently available for anybody who might be in the U.S. and Canada. You can find out more about that at professormesser.com/vouchers. Vouchers. Let's see how you did with this question. This question asked, which of the following data types is the most volatile? Is it backup tapes, temporary files, ARP cache, router configuration, or stored log files? One of those has got to be the right one. Let's see how you did with this one. 61% of you say it's the ARP cache is the most volatile. Temporary files comes in at 29%, and then single digits for everything else. We've got single digits for 5% for stored log files, 4% for backup tapes, 2% for router configuration. So hardly anybody thought that would be the right one. So let's talk about the order of volatility and why this is important. If you're someone who is collecting data from a system that could have been compromised, you need to collect as much evidence as possible. The problem, however, is that some of the evidence will disappear before you have a chance to grab it. So the important thing is that you get the evidence you need before it disappears. Well, how do you know when it's going to disappear? Well, you need to identify how volatile or in this particular case, how fleeting or temporary this information is going to be. The most volatile is at the top of this list. The least volatile is at the bottom of this list. And I can tell you from making this video that after a while, you get to say volatile so many times that you're not sure if you're saying it properly. So that could probably happen today. Who knows? The most volatile, the thing that changes the most, the thing that is most temporary, the thing that you have to grab it before it disappears, are CPU registers and CPU cache. Now that's really, really volatile because it just immediately it disappears. You've got some processors that are we're talking about billions and billions of transactions a second. That's how volatile these registers are because they're going to change very, very, very quickly. Well, other things might be a little bit slower to change. For example, temporary file systems or logging data and ultimately backups. Backups stick around for years. So you can see the difference between an archival media that sticks around for years and a CPU register that is here for a fraction of a second. That's a very different amount of time before that data seems to disappear and go away forever. So if you're trying to collect data, you start at the top of this list, you collect as much data as you can, and then as you move down this list, you've got a little more time where you can start relaxing a little bit as you're collecting this data. So that's why this order is so important. Now, looking at that chart, let's compare it to our question, which asked which was the most volatile. This means the thing that will be the most temporary. It will be around the least amount of time. That will be ARP cache is a pretty good choice there because an ARP cache is only going to be around for a minute or two, 30 seconds, depends on how your ARP cache is configured. But most operating systems keep it around for a couple of minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, then it drops off and it's away. There's other types of data that's on here, though, that it probably is going to be around a little bit longer. If you look at your temporary files directory on your Windows system, you'll see files there from a very long time ago, in some cases months ago. So that is a good example of how an ARP cache can stick around for 5 or 10 minutes, but temporary files might be around for months, at least a day or two, which is much less volatile than an ARP cache. And if we look at these other types, they're going to be around a long time as well. A router configuration does not change very often. It might change maybe once a week if it's a really busy network, but often once a router configuration is done, we don't touch it unless there's something very specific we need to add. Then we're going through a change control process. We have to get a certain date and time where we're allowed to make the change to the router. Then we finally make the change, and then we can't touch it again until we do another change control, which might be a week later. So router configurations stick around a lot longer than an ARP cache. Stored log files are usually there for a very long amount of time. It could be weeks, months, or even years to have log files on a system. And then backup tapes, as we've already mentioned, can stick around for years of time. So those are really less volatile than really anything else that we have in this list. The data type that is the most volatile, the one that will disappear the fastest, is indeed the one most of you chose. 61% said ARP cache. It is correct. Answer C is ARP cache. That's what we were looking for. That is the right answer. Well done. That's a good start, isn't it? You either remembered what we did last month or you know this information cold. You know it exactly the way it should be. Well, that is a multiple choice-based question. And the exam has a lot of multiple choice-based questions on it. But at the very beginning of the exam, you're going to get a series of questions, usually about a handful, 5 plus or minus questions, that will be something different than a multiple choice. It could be a fill in the blank. It could be a matching question. You may have to do a drag and drop on this question. It could be putting things in a particular order from highest to lowest or fastest to slowest. You're never quite sure exactly what they're going to ask, but these are questions that are different than a multiple choice. Now, fortunately, the content of a performance-based question comes directly from the exam objectives. So we already know the topics that will be covered. This isn't a mystery. It's just a different way of asking the question. Let's see how we do. I created a performance-based question for you today. Brand new questions. Let's see how you do with this one. This one is I guess it could be a drag and drop. It could be a fill in the blank. You'll see what I mean. Here's the question. It asks data in transit, data in use, or data at rest. So I have 6 different scenarios here, and I want you to tell me, is this data in transit, in use, or at rest? So for those of you listening on the podcast, I'm going to talk through every single one of these so you can make that decision. The very first one is network logs are archived to optical drives. Is that in transit, in use, or at rest? The next is a broadband Ethernet link contains encrypted VPN data. The third is an email editor puts red wavy lines under everything I type, or all misspelled words. D is live video is broadcast to multiple streaming services simultaneously. I didn't expect as many S's in that one. The next one is a video editing application renders audio in real time. And the last one is all employee records are stored in an encrypted database. So what I'd like you to do is tell me for A, B, C, D, E, and F, which ones of these are in transit, in use, or at rest. It could be that all of them are one of those. It could be that none of them are in there. You have to make the decision on these. For those of you listening in again, I'll quickly go through these. Network logs are archived to optical drives. A broadband Ethernet link contains encrypted VPN data. An email editor puts red wavy lines under all misspelled words. Live video is broadcast to multiple streaming services simultaneously. A video editing application renders audio in real time. And all employee records are stored in an encrypted database. Let's see how you're able to parse these out. I think this one might be relatively straightforward, but there's some of these where you really have to think about the scenario and what's going on. So make sure you are familiar with these topics, what they mean, how you would use them. There's never any single trivial question on the exam, is there? We have to always take an extra step to get to the final answer on these questions. So feel free to lock those in if you think you know the answer. Follow the link on your page, professormesser.com/QA. We'll lock it in. While we're doing that, I want to thank in the chat room Jules with the $10 super chat. Thank you, Jules. Jules says, passed Security Plus last week. Congratulations. Just barely. There is no just barely. You passed. You studied just the right amount, as I like to say. Just barely, but I read the read the questions in my head in your voice and managed to score 762. This is why you barely passed, Jules. I don't need to be in your head. Get the voice out of there. You could have scored 800. That's what I'm saying. Thank you for all the videos. Thank you, Jules, for the $10 super chat. Congratulations on your Security Plus. That's got to have a good feeling to know that's out of the way. So much better. If you are ever in a situation where you are just trying to find the best possible way to study, go through those exam objectives. Go through all of the possible questions you could get, whether it's my voice in your head or not. We'll figure it out as we go through this. See if you happen to, and by the way, thank you for the $10 super chat as well, Jules. Let's see how we did with this one. We've got a question on whether these particular scenarios are in transit, in use, or at rest. Let's see how we did with this one. We'll start with the very first at the top. Network logs are archived to optical drives. Not an unusual thing to have happen to log files, to keep them, but since we are archiving them, since we are storing them, and they're just going to sit there, well, then you've got plenty to look at rest. It is sitting there and resting. It is not going anywhere. It's not going across the network, so it's not in transit. It's not being processed by an application, so it's not in use. It is being stored somewhere, and no one's currently accessing it. It's just on a drive. That would be at rest. The second on our list is a broadband Ethernet link contains encrypted VPN data. Well, we've got a lot going on there. There's an Ethernet link, a broadband Ethernet link, as if that matters. We've got encrypted VPN data. That's all somehow going across that link. That clearly denotes that there is data that is currently moving somewhere, going from one place to the other. And data in transit is definitely what I would put on that link. Is that what we put? It is. In transit is the answer to B. Third on our list, an email editor puts red wavy lines under all misspelled words. And that is something that is happening in real time. As you are typing, it is finding out that what you typed was incorrect or it doesn't recognize the word that you're putting in, and it puts those red wavy lines in there. It's currently processing that information, so that data is in use. Fourth on our list, live video is broadcast to multiple streaming services simultaneously. The process of sending all of this data across the network to all of these streaming services is really telling us the data is currently in motion or in transit. Both of those are common terms to use for in transit. So we'll put in transit next to that one. Fifth on our list, a video editing application renders audio in real time. As it turns out, I was rendering audio when I wrote that particular question, so it made sense to me. And since that was data that was actively being used, that we were processing that data in a particular way, that data is in use. And last one on our list is all employee records are stored in an encrypted database. Yes, they are. They're just sitting there in that encrypted database. They are at rest. So there are our 6 different scenarios. Network logs are archived to optical drives. They are sitting there at rest. A broadband Ethernet link contains encrypted VPN data. That's in transit. An email editor puts red wavy lines under all misspelled words. That's in use. We have live video broadcast to multiple streaming services simultaneously. That's in transit. A video editing application renders audio in real time. That's in use. And all employee records stored in an encrypted database are at rest. Now, you could certainly be asked questions like this on the exam. There are multiples of these to choose from. It could be a drag and drop, or you may be putting things in a particular order. Whenever you get a question like this, it's certainly possible that you could get some of them right and some of them wrong. So the natural next question is, do I get partial credit? Do I get some points for at least getting some of these right? That would be nice. CompTIA has a frequently asked questions on their website, and they have a frequently asked question that is, do I get partial credit on some of these? And CompTIA's answer is maybe. That there are certain questions that they will give partial credit for, but they don't tell you what those questions are. So it's very possible they could not give you partial credit on a question. Now, this one sort of lends itself, I think, to partial credit. So the optimist in me wants to believe that this would be the kind of question that they would give you partial credit for. But we don't know. And the problem is you'll never know because they don't tell you in the results what questions got a certain number of points, or was it graded a certain way, or did you get partial credit? You'll never know. They don't tell you. So I would tell you not to dwell, that this is not something you need to even worry about because you have no control over it and you have no way to confirm it at the end of the day. My recommendation to you is just do the best you can. And ultimately, the final score will work out in the end. You really don't have any control over this. And that's pretty much the way that any industry certification exam works. So that's why if you're someone who's really working through worrying about the number of points down to the decimal level, you're worrying about the wrong things. Go grab the exam objectives and apply that same amount of passion into understanding the details on the exam objectives, and then it doesn't matter how they grade it. You're just going to pass it. So that's my recommendation. Don't worry about the stuff you don't have any control over. Worry about the things you do have control of. That's what I would recommend as well. Let's do some more questions. I have some more multiple choice questions that we can go through. This next one on my list is a multiple choice question that asks, which of the following would provide the best security for a cloud-based microservice architecture? Would that be API monitoring, NGFW, real-time anti-malware, segmented VLANs, or IPS? Which of the following would provide the best security for a cloud-based microservice architecture? Would it be API monitoring, NGFW, real-time anti-malware, segmented VLANs, or IPS? If you think you know the answer, follow the link that's on your page right here, professormesser.com/QA, right there in your browser. Go to that link and figure out the details of what happens to be there. As always, please no answers in the chat room. Please no hints in the chat room. We're going to answer by following that URL that is on your screen right now, professormesser.com/QA. Luck Rocks in the chat room, or is it Luke Rocks in the chat room with the $50 super chat? That's US dollars, right? That's pretty strong. Thanks so much for the super chat. Luke writes, thanks for the quality of your content, Prof. You're truly the best. We'll keep that coming. In 2021, I passed A+ and Network Plus without any experience with computers, only using your videos and exams. I'm back for the Security Plus. It's great to use your material again. Thanks again. Well, thank you for the support. Thank you for your ongoing support. Congratulations on your A+, your Network Plus, and best of luck with Security Plus, too. I think this is a good one to get into. This latest Security Plus version is big, but it is extensive. There's a little bit of everything that you can learn from different parts of the IT security world. So this is really a good time to study for Security Plus. You are absolutely in the right place. And thank you so much for the extremely generous $50 super chat, Luke. Thanks so much. And we appreciate your ongoing support. You can send me a note anytime. Just keep that coming. I appreciate all of the support that everybody gives. Just watching the videos is support enough. Super chat is just above and beyond. Thank you so much for that. Let's have everybody lock in their answer on this one, which is at professormesser.com/QA. I see a number of you locking your answers in. This may be one you weren't ready for. This is definitely a 601 exam question. This is a brand new set of topics that are on the 601. If you were studying for previous versions of Security Plus, wasn't on there. We weren't talking about microservice architectures because, well, effectively, it's a series or strategy of creating applications that we just haven't really used until most recently, at least not on the PC, internet, cloud-based network side of things anyway, if you want to think about it that way. So that's where we need to kind of break down the different answers. And if you don't know what it is, maybe you can throw some out so that you can maybe guess on what it happens to be. Let's see how we did. A number of you have locked in your answers, so let's see how you did with this one. The question again asked, which of the following would provide the best security for a cloud-based microservice architecture? Is that API monitoring, NGFW, real-time anti-malware, segmented VLANs, or IPS? And let's see how you answered. Wow, we are all over the place. None of us got a majority on this one, but we got a pretty much a tie for first, although let's go with the one that really won. 35% of you went with API monitoring. So if we had to lock it in, that's the one we would deal with, is API monitoring. 32% of you, really right behind it, practically a tie, is NGFW. That's next generation firewall for those of you checking in. And then a three-way tie for whatever's next. Are we going to call that second place or third place? Either way, it's 10%, 11%, and 11% for real-time anti-malware, segmented VLANs, and IPS. They were all effectively those double digits. Did not get any single-digit answers on this one, which means we were all trying to figure this one out. We're all trying to work through what this would be. A cloud-based microservice architecture is what we're talking about here. This is an architecture that provides you with, gosh, a number of different options. But the architecture itself is one where you at the client are communicating to an API gateway, and the API gateway behind the scenes in the cloud is determining where to send that particular query. And so they can create an application that has all of these microservices associated with it, which of course on their side provides scalability. If one of these microservices is being used more than the other, they can roll out additional microservices to add on to or provide more support for the number of people hitting that app. You've now got scalability. And if it is a situation where you need to create a new set of apps, you just build out the new API gateway, and now you've got a whole new set of microservices to go with. There's lots of things you can do to make this scalable. And of course, each one of those has a separate database at the end of it. Again, another opportunity for scalability. That is a microservice architecture. So if you wanted to protect and provide security for this microservice architecture, you want to somehow prevent someone from sending some type of data into the API gateway that would cause the API gateway to perform in a way that you weren't expecting, which is the polite way of saying they're trying to hack your system. So we need to have some way to protect that gateway, because that's the only thing the end users see. That's the only thing the hackers have access to. Everything below the API gateway is in the cloud. It's in a private section of the cloud, and the users don't have direct access to any of the microservices or the databases on the other side. So we need to monitor that API. We need to make sure that we're checking to see that everything's coming from maybe a particular country. If all your customers might be in a single country or a set of countries. And if you see something coming from an unusual location, that might be a worry. That might be a concern. We might want to look into that. Or if somebody's trying a lot of different kind of odd things to the gateway. They're trying to send garbage into the gateway, or they're trying to get around or circumvent some of the security controls you have on the gateway. Well, in that particular case, that would certainly raise some red flags as well. So I think if you were someone who really wanted to secure and maintain that API gateway, you're going to need to monitor it. And so those of you that answered API monitoring, you got 36% of you that are spot on. That is the right answer. API monitoring, 37%, absolutely correct. Now, why wouldn't it be an NGFW, a next generation firewall? Well, certainly you could probably roll out a cloud-based next generation firewall for this, but a next generation firewall is trying to block or allow traffic based on the type of application. It could certainly get down to ports and protocols as well. You got a lot you can do with that. But the challenge with the next generation firewall is that it doesn't look very deep into details of an application. So it's not monitoring exactly changes to an API. It might recognize this is an API call, but it's not really going to monitor the details of that API call. So that's the real key, is going through this list and trying to determine would a next generation firewall be better or worse than an API monitoring tool? Well, we asked the best security for a cloud-based microservice. API monitoring is certainly better than a next generation firewall, so still at the top of our list. Real-time anti-malware would help you protect on maybe your client side. It could also protect on the server, but we're not sending malware down to the gateway. We're sending API calls down to the gateway. So real-time anti-malware is not what we're looking for the best possible security to that API gateway. So that's not the one we would choose either. Segmented VLANs, not going to help us very much, because it's really you and the API gateway that we need to protect. There's no way to segment that out. If we segment it out, you can't talk to the gateway. So another good example of how segmented VLANs are a necessary and useful security tool, but not in this particular design. And the last one on our list, an IPS, an intrusion prevention system, probably one of the better answers for this one, because if there are known vulnerabilities to an API gateway, you would be able to block them with the IPS. But there's your problem, of course, is that you have to be able to know about the vulnerability first before an IPS is ever going to be able to block that. And to be fair, there's so many different ways to send these commands down to an API gateway. That's not a very good way to protect against that. We need to provide constant monitoring of the traffic going into the API gateway. So that's the one that we would like to see. Answer A, 38% of you got that right. That is the right answer, and that's what you need to do if you need to secure a microservice architecture, especially one that's in the cloud. Let's now do another question. Let's see how we do with this one. We're going to bounce off of this one and go to another question that asks, a pen tester would like to perform a port scan to a remote device, but have the scan source originate from another country. Which of the following would be the best choice for this requirement? Would it be Sniper, Nessus, the Harvester, Scanless, or HPing? A pen tester would like to perform a port scan to a remote device, but have the scan source originate from another country. Which of the following would be the best choice for this requirement? Is it Sniper, Nessus, the Harvester, Scanless, or Ping? If you think you know the answer, follow the link that's on your page, professormesser.com/QA, and lock in your answer. Please no answers in the chat room. Please no hints in the chat room. We'll figure out the details as we go through this. The reason in the last question that it was not a next-generation firewall is that next-generation firewalls are very good at allowing or disallowing access to certain applications. API could be considered an application. The API request, that microservice request, is an application. And so your next-generation firewall will tell you, hey, look, somebody just made an API request. Should we allow that or not allow it? And that's it. Next generation firewalls, they have the ability to go even more granular than that. But the problem is that an API is so variable. You've written your own APIs. They're different than any other APIs that are out there. The next generation firewall has no idea what your APIs look like because you wrote them from scratch. So this would not be the best tool for trying to secure a microservice architecture because we can't get in to understand the API request itself. So that's the real difference. It's a difference in scale or scope, really. For example, a next-generation firewall could allow or disallow my access to Twitter, but it doesn't monitor what I'm typing into Twitter. It doesn't look for certain words that I'm putting into Twitter. Similar scenario with an API call. So that's what you need to look for. In this case, we have a completely different question where a pen tester is trying to be crafty and trying to have a port scan to a device, but doesn't want anybody to know that they're doing this port scan to this device. What if the scan came from somewhere else other than where I am? How can we do that? Is it possible? Well, of course it is. And so let's see the answers that we put together for this one. This question again asked, a pen tester would like to perform a port scan to a remote device, but have the scan source originate from another country. Which of the following would be the best choice for this requirement? Is it Sniper, Nessus, the Harvester, Scanless, or HPing? How did you answer? Oh, it's another one we're not sure about. This is definitely a 601 question. We have really a three-way tie for first. That's kind of unusual between Nessus, Sniper, and Scanless. And then we have a 16% of you that said HPing. That's a solid second place. And then in third place with 6% of the vote is the Harvester. These are all real things, by the way. These are all absolutely real things. You should know what they all are. They come directly from the CompTIA exam objectives. Make sure you are familiar with every single one of these. But we need to figure out the answer to this question and what we're going to use. The idea is that we want to perform a port scan. So I thought we'd run Nmap, except Nmap shows me as being the source. How could I have somewhere else run the Nmap for me or whatever port scan I'm running? We're effectively looking for a proxy. We would like someone else to perform the scan and give us the results once the scan is complete. And as it turns out, there's a tool that does this, and that tool is Scanless. You can run port scans from a completely different host. So this is a great one to have in your toolbox because you can run this and nobody knows that you're the one that asked for the scan to happen. It's effectively a port scanning proxy. It has a lot of different services available. You can see some of them that are there right now. I just did a scanless-L so I could list out all of the different scanners and what's available. But you can see spiders and pings and fingerprints and DNS settings, and there's lots of things you can do where it doesn't point back to you. You have full deniability even though you're the one that did it. Now, a lot of people will block this in their firewall because they don't want those proxies coming in. So it's a cat and mouse game where we're constantly changing the source of this so we can get around some of these firewall rules. And of course, adding to that, the ability to look for someone trying to perform this port scan, which is also a challenging thing as well. Scanless is definitely the one we wanted. In this case, 26% of you chose Scanless, so it was first. It was a three-way tie for first, but certainly that's a good one to use. If you're ever in a place where you're trying to find the right thing, to perform a particular task, this list of utilities that's in the exam objectives is a great one to go through. Make sure you know what all of these are. All of these utilities are in the exam objectives. The ones you did not answer are the ones we answered differently than Scanless. The first one that got the most number of points, 27% of you voted for Nessus as the right answer. Nessus is a vulnerability scanner. So it will scan for vulnerabilities. It does have some port scanning built into it. I believe it's integrated with Nmap when it performs those port scans. But Nessus is the one that would provide us with a list of vulnerabilities. But it's not really a port scanner. And it certainly doesn't proxy a port scan. So that's not the one we would use in this case. Sniper, another good utility to use. And I go through all of these. Sniper, the Harvester. These are tools that you can use to gather information from other sources. These sources might be open source. They might be directed towards a particular DNS. They might be directed towards a particular online service, like a social media service. There's lots of tools that you can use to gather some of this open source material. And those are a number of tools that can provide that. And then HPing, where you can really customize a ping that you're sending across the network. Think of it as a ping on steroids. It's a ping that you can customize to do whatever you would like, a very powerful pinging tool, but it does not do port scanning from a different location. In this case, the best choice for this requirement, even though you could probably set up a proxy and then use Nmap to send to that proxy. And well, now you're making this more difficult than it really needs to be, because Scanless already does it out of the box. We don't have to set up anything else. We don't have to configure anything else. We don't have to build out another proxy. It's already done for us with Scanless. That's clearly the best choice for this requirement. And if you answered D, Scanless, 26% of you got this one absolutely right. Well done. Before we go on, I want to thank Valeria in the chat room. I know I didn't do that well, but we'll figure it out. Well, we'll fix it in post. $10 super chat, which is really the most important part. Valeria says, watched all your videos and really enjoyed your study groups. Passed my Security Plus on Saturday. Congratulations on your new Security Plus. Thank you, Professor, for all you do. You're absolutely welcome, and so pleased to hear about your Security Plus being passed. I love to hear when you pass your exams. So when you pass your exam, click that Contact Us link on my website. Let me know about it. I love to hear the stories. It's very motivating. It gets me up in the morning and gets these videos out thanks to your feedback to me. It's just a circle. It's just a loop where we just keep doing it over and over and over again to make that happen. If you want to know more about these tools, they're available on my site. It is the SY0-601 course, section 4.1. The name of the video is called Reconnaissance Tools Part 2. You can see it at the bottom of the page right there. Lots to go through. We can already see that there is a lot of content that is very diverse in the Security Plus exam. All kinds of different things you need to know about. You have to know a little bit of coding. You have to, or at least the concepts of implementing some of these applications that have been coded. You have to know a little bit of firewalls and devices. You have to know a little bit of network design. You have to know a little bit of security design. You have to know about encryption and certificates and so many other things. It's a very, 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 very big exam. It's probably one of the biggest that we create videos for. And I would recommend you watch every single one of my videos. The problem, of course, is there are over 100 of these, and not everybody has time to go through every single video, everything that they're doing. So what I've done is I've created a set of notes that has everything from my videos. These are my SY0-601 course notes. Here they are on my screen. This is the PDF version. You can see there are over 121 pages that are there. There's a lot there. And you can see everything from every video, all of the text from every video, all of the important graphics, all of the important tables. They are in this document. It is full and complete. You can get that digital version in PDF form. I also have a physical version that you can get. I print them on demand for you and ship them out. No wasted paper, no wasted energy. We're able to get it to you, and when we make it, it is made just for you and shipped to you directly. It is a great add-on to the other things that you're doing. So use this with your book, use it with your videos, use it with your online training or your labs that you do. Everything that's in here is going to help you with your Security Plus studies. It's all in one place and very easy to find. If you want more information on it, go to professormesser.com/601cn or just visit the links on my website and you can find the course notes there. They are a valuable tool that you'd be able to use, especially if you're ready to now start the process of really getting ready for your exam. Compare these to your CompTIA exam objectives, put them next to each other. Very, very useful to make that happen. So that's what I would recommend as well in the Security Plus course notes. Let's do another question. Got another one here. A company is performing an audit to ensure that all credit card transactions are secure. Which of the following would provide guidelines for this audit? Would it be GDPR, EULA, NDA, PCI DSS, or SOX? A company is performing an audit to ensure that all credit card transactions are secure. Which of the following would provide guidelines for this audit? Would it be GDPR, EULA, NDA, PCI DSS, or SOX? Got the link there. It's on your screen. Go to professormesser.com/QA and lock in your answer. Yeah, there's only one answer on this one. From the chat room, someone mentioned, hey, HPing, we could do an idle scan to do a scan from another location. Yes, you could. You can also do similar scans in Nmap that are idle scans. Nmap has an idle scan function too. But you have to find a device somewhere that's maybe in another country. I don't know how you're going to do that. And then that device has to be available or have the availability to you, non-filtered, to be able to run an idle scan. Not all operating systems can do idle scans. Not all systems can perform idle scans. That's a challenge too. So whenever you start getting into the details of this, it's not simple to do an idle scan. It takes a lot of work to find a device that you could possibly use to do an idle scan. Well, at that point, I could just send scanless. We'd be done already. So that's why in the question, you'll notice that I asked which of these would be the best choice for this task. And this is an important thing to remember on the exam, is you might have some questions where there are multiple answers that could technically be correct. And that's a really good example of one. Technically, I could configure an HPing if I knew what device was in another country and that device was available and the operating system allowed me to do it and I was able to communicate to it without any firewall filtering. Yes, I could do a proxy. So there's a lot of things you have to get through just to have HPing do that as a proxy. Well, you could have just run scanless. And that's why I say choose the best answer. Scanless was the best one. Could you use HPing? Yes, you could. Is it harder to do? Yes, it is. Would it take more time? Yes, it would. Is it reliable? No, it's not. But you could do it. That's why it's not the best answer. It's a answer. It's a technically correct answer, but not the best answer. And we were asking for the best answer. So keep looking for those style of questions on your exam and your practice exams. You will see this come up a lot where multiple answers could technically be correct. But of course, you have to answer the question, which is not asking you which one of these things could you use. It's asking you which one of these would really be the best one to use. So you do have to have some familiarity with all of the possible answers to be able to answer that question correctly. Not knowing one of those answers now affects your ability to properly answer the overall question. So it's kind of a hard question. Those are very difficult questions. There's a higher level of difficulty because you have to know what all of the answers are to properly answer the very initial question. That's a challenge. So another one of those. Very useful. Where can you find labs? There's some labs on my website. Those CompTIA labs are super good. I do a video demonstration of their labs. If you go to my website under the Security Plus pull down, there's my recommended tools, and there's some great labs in there. Very useful to be able to have that there. I think, and I do a video to describe how these are used and how useful they are. So make sure you go through that and get familiar with them too. Let's go through this question. Let's see if we bounced back from that last one where we had three-way tie for first. This question asks, a company is performing an audit to ensure that all credit card transactions are secure. Which of the following would provide guidelines for this audit? Is it GDPR, EULA, NDA, PCI DSS, or SOX? 74%, yeah, we bounced back, said PCI DSS. That's what you chose. That's a pretty strong number. 10% said GDPR. Here's a good one. And then we have 8% said SOX, SOX, and then a two-way tie for fourth place between EULA and NDA. You know, when I think about security as someone who has worked in the security field, was a cybersecurity systems engineer, implemented next-generation firewalls on these enormous networks, some of the biggest companies in the world, I always found it fun to do the implementation, to sit down at the command line, to configure a security policy, to customize the features of a firewall. I love this. I love the technical side of things. It is exciting. But then there's this other part of IT security that is very administrative, and it's just as important because we have to make sure we have the right rules in place to be able to implement those rules and keep our data safe. This is a really good example of that, where we're dealing with audits and making sure that what we're doing for security is really the right thing. Well, in this case, it's a company that obviously uses credit cards. I have this problem on my site is I collect credit cards to purchase some of the products on my site. How do I keep those credit cards protected? Now, I can go through a whole thing if you'd like on how we do that on my site. But one of the things that gives you a guideline on how you can protect this credit card information and the transactions that occur for credit cards comes directly from the credit card companies. That is the Payment Card Industry Data Security Standard. We often just call it PCI. Hey, is this PCI compliant? Which is really just saying, is it Payment Card Industry compliant? Which doesn't necessarily tell the whole story. The whole story really is it the Payment Card Industry's Data Security Standard? Is it compliant with that? So PCI DSS is very, very useful. Knowing how to protect the cards as people are putting in their credit card information, as this information is being transferred across the network, and as this information is being stored, there's a number of different objectives associated with this. You don't have to know the details of every single one of these, but they're on the screen, they're in the slide, they're in the video, so that you get a feel for why this particular standard was created. And this is why, because we don't want our credit cards being thrown all over the place and stolen and used for other things. We need better ways to protect our personal data and our financial data, and the PCI DSS helps us with that. I think you knew that because 75% of you said, yeah, PCI DSS is what you would choose. Now, what about these other answers that are here? We have 10% that said the GDPR. The data protection regulation in the UK is one that is very familiar to folks that are in the EU. I said UK, but EU. Now it's not the UK, it's EU. In the European Union, the data protection regulations allow you to have more control on what third parties do with your data. And in the US, we don't really have a rule like this exactly. I do have people from the EU that will send me emails that say, due to GDPR, I would like this information removed from your site. Well, I'm not in the EU, so I do try to follow at least the ideas that they're providing. And if it's something I can delete, I absolutely do. Because if you've got information on my site and you don't want your data on my site, I'll get rid of it so it's not there anymore. Sometimes, though, people will buy something, and in the United States, I have a financial requirement to keep that data a certain amount of time. So therein lies some of the challenges that we all have with some of these regulations, is that how do we protect data, but also make sure we do the normal things as part of business and being able to make sure that we can justify taxes being paid on these things. That's the last thing I want to have any problems with, is taxes in the United States. So GDPR, not quite what we were looking for to protect credit card information, however. EULA, no, next on our list, SOX. 8% of you said SOX. The idea of having some regulations on financial disclosures is an important one. And having rules and regulations in the U.S. to add some accountability to management of companies that do not properly provide financial data is important. And that's where SOX would come in. But we're talking about a company's annual statements or quarterly statements. We're not really talking about credit card information, so SOX would not apply here. That's Sarbanes-Oxley is what SOX stands for. That's the name of the regulation associated with keeping companies' financial data accurate. And then EULA at 4%, an end-user license agreement, dictates how people are able to use a piece of software that has nothing to do with credit card transaction security. And then the last is NDA, a non-disclosure agreement, is an agreement between two or multiple people, organizations, to keep information private. So it's one where if we were giving you some secrets a little ahead of time, here's what's coming next, but don't tell anybody. I'll have you sign this non-disclosure so I can legally require you not to say anything to anyone else until a certain amount of time. So NDA would not be the case either. This could be one of those that if you knew GDPR, EULA, NDA, and SOX, then you would be able to either say, those are not the ones associated with this. The only one left is PCI DSS. So that is the correct answer. If you answered D, PCI DSS, you got this one absolutely correct. If you're watching these videos for Continuing Education Unit Credit, or CEUs, one of the things you can do to get an email from me is go to the top or the bottom of the Professor Messer website. There's a link there for Contact Us, which is really Contact Me. It comes directly to me. And in that form that pops up, put your name, your email address. In the subject line, put June 2022 Security Plus, and put the super secret code word of the month on that subject line. This month's super secret code word of the month is, what should we do? Let's do SOX, S-O-X, Sarbanes-Oxley. You could spell it out. You could abbreviate it. Either's fine with me. And then you could put into the body of the message anything you would like. That's what I would recommend. If you put that into the body of the message, I read through every single one of these. So I want to thank you, by the way, for those of you that put those in the body of the message. Put that in there. I do read through, but I get so many of these that I'm not able to respond back to all of them. But just so you know, I'm reading through every single one of them. Love them. Thank you for sending them. So that's takes me about a week to turn these around. Sometimes I do it on the weekends. And then I will send you an email that has been digitally signed that says you watched this video and therefore you have been given a 1-hour webinar category CEU. So there you go. That's what we do with this. Go to the top or the bottom, Professor Messer website, click Contact Us, put your name, your email, put June 2022 Security Plus, and our super secret code word of the month, SOX, S-O-X, SOX. That will earn you a Continuing Education Unit credit. I know technically you don't need an email from me to claim the Continuing Education Unit credit. They take it on your honesty that you were really here and that you really got that hour. But I like sending them just in case you're audited. Just in case they say, well, we're not sure you really attended this. Yes, I did, because I've got this email and it's been digitally signed, so I could not have changed it. I could not have made it up. It has Professor Messer's digital signature on there. You can verify that it's real. There you go. That is exactly what we do with those. Now, I know it's top of the hour, but let's do one more question, at least one more. I have probably two. We'll do one more for sure on here, because this one is definitely a Security Plus 601 question. Let's see how we do with this topic, which asks, a security operations center has been informed of a new vulnerability with a CVSS of 9.0. Which of the following would provide more information on this score? Would it be the National Vulnerability Database? Would it be SOAR? Would it be Microsoft Security Bulletins? Would it be CASB? Would it be SIM? A Security Operations Center has been informed of a new vulnerability with a CVSS of 9.0. Which of the following would provide more information on this score? Is it the National Vulnerability Database, SOAR, Microsoft Security Bulletins, CASB, or SIM? If you think you know the answer, follow the link that's on your screen. Go to professormesser.com/QA to lock in your answer. Please no answers in the chat room. Please no hints in the chat room. I should just have a button I push. It just says that every time. But no, you get it live every time. Maybe I'll get it wrong next time. We'll see. Lock in your answer there, and then we'll see how you do at the end of this one. This is probably one of those where knowing each one of those answers is going to be a good one. Being able to step through each one of those might give you a little insight into the middle of this. So that's where you should go, is to exactly that place. Go to professormesser.com/QA and lock in your answer. I know there could be a banner, but we got folks that are listening in. Maybe it's not up on your screen. Maybe you've got it somewhere else. There's a lot going on. So that's why I tell people, I'll just tell it every time. We'll just go through it every time. Don't worry. We'll figure out what it is. So that's why I think would be a good one. How many CEUs from the study group can be applied as credit during a certificate renewal? Well, one of them is going to be... if you look at the CompTIA website, they tell you how many CEUs can be applied from each category. So the one that I think is good for Security Plus, I believe it's 10 webinar category CEUs can be applied to a renewal. And I think it's 50. I think it's 50 to renew for this. So you still need 40 CEUs from somewhere else. Yes, you cannot simply watch all of my study groups to renew your certification. I should really just tell CompTIA they should make an exception for me. So they should, or you. They're not really making an exception for me. They're making one for you. That would allow you to watch all of them. But that's just horribly selfish. So we're not going to do that. I think they have a good mix, though, because you got a little bit from here. Then you got to do a little bit of something else. Then you got to do a little bit of something else. And at the end of the renewal, you've now got sort of a mixture of different security-related objects and topics and things that you've done, which is good. But not all of you need to collect CEUs. Of course, you could renew by taking a higher-level certification. You could take the CertMaster CE. So you don't have to collect CEUs, but some people like to do it. So it's up to you. You get to decide exactly how you would like to renew your certification, and you got options. So, we'll figure it out. Let's see how you did with this question. A number of you have locked in your answers already. This question again asked, a security operations center has been informed of a new vulnerability with a CVSS of 9.0. Which of the following would provide more information on this score? Would it be the National Vulnerability Database? Would it be SOAR? Would it be Microsoft Security Bulletins? Would it be CASB? Or would it be SIM? So there's probably two answers here, right? But we don't know that it's a Microsoft problem, which means the first place we should probably go is the National Vulnerability Database, and indeed 76% of you would go there as well. That's the one exactly where you would go to make that happen. Have you ever been to the National Vulnerability Database? If you haven't, you should go look at it. I'll show you a picture of some of the things you'll find there in just a moment. You've got other options here. We had 9% said SIM, 7% said CASB, 7% said SOAR, and 2% said Microsoft Security Bulletins. Trying to research vulnerabilities, it's a full-time job. There are so many out there. Can you imagine an organization that has so many systems, applications, and people that you would need to hire someone whose sole job is keeping track of all these vulnerabilities? Fortunately, there are huge databases and ways to share these vulnerabilities throughout organizations, but the National Vulnerability Database is really the best place to go for this. You can find it at nvd.nist.gov. Yes, it's a federal government feature, a federal government service, and it works quite well, which is slightly unusual for a U.S. federal government service. But there it is. Who said that they don't get the job done? There it is. It's synchronized with the CVE list. What's nice about it is they give you a score. They take every vulnerability and show you the common vulnerability scoring system. That's what the CVSS is. So between 0 and 10, how bad is this? That's really what a CVSS is. Anything up near 10, kind of bad, kind of awful in that scenario. There have been changes to the way things have been scored over time. What was I saying about the federal government? So they were doing it one way, and then they decided, we're going to do it a different way. It's really probably a bit more accurate and a little bit better now. But we had to kind of change in the middle. Fortunately, it's numbered. It's versioned. So a CVSS 2.0 score is different than a CVSS 3.x score, 3.0 continued on. An example of a CVSS and a vulnerability database entry is right here on the screen. This is a CVE from 2020, number 25079. An issue was discovered on a D-Link, specific D-Link model, version before 1.0601 hotfix. And they tell you that it allows authenticated command injection. Sounds bad, because it is. And we know it's bad because if you look at the values for this, they are up. They're even marked in red. Let's really show this. For the 3.1 scoring, it's an 8.8, which they designate as high, and it is. If this is version 2 scoring that you're using, it's 9.0, pretty close. That's a bad problem. That's one that needs to be resolved. So that's the one that would really help you. There's a lot of great stuff. If you just go scan that every day, just go look at it every day, it's remarkable the number of vulnerabilities that are found across systems, firmware, applications. It just goes on and on and on and on. But it's a great way to know immediately, oh, here's a vulnerability. And if you have an organization that has a D-Link model of that type with that particular software, it would be nice to know that vulnerability existed. So you can find it in the National Vulnerability Database. It's great to go through, and I recommend you do exactly that. 77% of you said, yep, that's the right answer. A National Vulnerability Database is exactly where you would go. We have other options on here like a SIM, Security Information and Events Manager. That's a great way to go through and collect log data and create reports and other information associated with logs on your network, consolidate it all to a single database. But that doesn't tell you anything about vulnerabilities, so it would not be a SIM. It would not be CASB, a cloud-based security broker. That is one that sort of keeps your security policies in place even though you've moved all your applications to the cloud. That's been our biggest problem in security, is worrying about moving things to the cloud. Does it give me more or less security? Well, it just changes your security. You have to find different ways to have security. And the CASB is your different way. That Cloud Access Security Broker is the way to now take your policies, put your policies in the cloud, and now you can provide the same protection even though your applications are somewhere else out in the cloud. We got SOAR. The automation that comes from SOAR is one that helps a lot when you're trying to manage this wave of vulnerabilities and reports that we get every day in security. It's never ending. It's 24/7. So this is another good example of trying to find a better way or a more automated way to handle our security concerns. SOAR is a great strategy for that. And then lastly, a Microsoft Security Bulletin. We didn't know in this question what type of vulnerability this was. We don't know whether it's a vulnerability with firmware, with an application, with an operating system. We don't know. So immediately just going to Microsoft is not really your best bet. That's not the right answer. Although ultimately this might have been a Microsoft-related vulnerability, we don't know that information yet. So this would not be where you would go. Especially Microsoft doesn't keep score. They don't have the CVSS generally on their website. They don't tend to say this one has these particular CVSS values. The CVSS you will find always in the National Vulnerability Database, and that's why answer A, the National Vulnerability Database, that's your right answer. That's what we were looking for. And like I said, if you've got some time and you want to go through this list of what the bad things are right now, at a glance, it's on the National Vulnerability Database. Highly recommend you check it out. It's very valuable information. I also want to let you know that if you like these questions and you're looking for questions that are really built and designed to emulate, to have the same feel, to have the same style as actual exam questions, I wrote an entire book full of them. They are my practice exams. And for the SY0-601, I have an entire book of 3 full 90-question practice exams. So now you've got 380 pages, 3 90-question practice exams on these, Lots to go through. Multiple choice questions, performance-based questions. There's 15 total performance-based questions in this book. There's lots that you could learn by going through this list. And as I mentioned, I wrote these questions so that you would have a similar feel or similar style to what is available on the actual exam. Let me give you an example. Some folks in the chat room want to do another question, so let's do one right from the Practice Exams book. This is question A13 that asks, you might get this one right. We just did this question. We're going to do it again. A CISO, a Chief Information Security Officer, would like to decrease the response time when addressing security incidents. Unfortunately, the company does not have the budget to hire additional security engineers. I question this, but we're going with it. Which of the following would assist the CISO with this requirement? Is it ISO 27701, PKI, IaaS, or SOAR? Now, this is a PDF in the digital version, and if you have a PDF reader like I do that allows you to mark things up, you can select different options on here, or maybe not select different options depending on what you'd like to do. You've got, if you got some type of markup, you can write on your tablet on the PDF, make changes on this. It's something you can make dynamic changes as you go. But I've also built into this some links. So quick answer, notice my icon changed the little hand there, which takes us to page 33, or the details on page 50, which also show us information. If we click the details on page 50, it takes us to page 50, just jumps us right over there to make that happen. So that's a great place, a great link, because then you're not having to scroll through a PDF and then scroll back through the PDF. That's ridiculous. So you just click it, and it takes you right to the page where it gives you the question again, and then it gives you the answer. The answer in this case was D, SOAR, which is Security Orchestration, Automation, and Response. We just talked about SOAR, so it's almost a gimme to go through this one. But it gives you the explanation of why that right answer was really right. My problem, though, is I never get them right. I get them wrong. And if you look at some of these, there's a vast, broad scope of practice questions on the internet. Some good, mostly not good. But they rarely tell you why an answer was wrong. So in my book, I take all the incorrect answers and I tell you why each answer was incorrect. So you'll never be at a loss. Even if you get the question wrong, you're going to learn from that. You'll understand what the right answer was. And even probably more importantly, if you got the answer right, make sure you read through the wrong answers, because the question on your actual exam might be related to those topics and not the topic from the actual question. Now, if you read through the question and you're thinking, I have no idea what this question's about, I don't even understand what I'm reading, is this a different language? Where am I? Fortunately, at the very bottom of every question's detailed answers is a QR code and a link that will take you to the video that helps explain to you where this question came from. So even if you read through the question and you're wondering, I have no idea what I'm reading, I at least give you a place you can go to learn more about where that question originated, so that at that point you can make more of an educated decision about what the right answer would be. And then once you're done, you can click the back link that's in your PDF reader and simply go to the next question on the list. That is my practice exams. One click to find the answer, one click to go back to the question, and you can just keep going through the list over and over and over again. Lots of great information in here. You can find out more about it on my website, professormesser.com/securitype. And if, just like my course notes, you can get the digital version or you get the physical version. Look how big that book is. It's a big book. Lots of questions, lots of answers. And if you get the physical version of any of my products, you get access to the digital version for free. So while you're waiting on this to be delivered, and these days it takes a while to get things delivered to you, but we do get it to you. This delivery, you don't have to wait. You can just go online, download the PDF version, start reading it right now, immediately, while you're waiting on that delivery. It's a great way to do it. ProfessorMesser.com/securitype. All of these questions today came directly from the CompTIA exam objectives. I've mentioned this a number of times, but I still have people that tell me, how do I know really what to study for the exam? And I always tell them, well, you go to the exam objectives, and they say, what? What is that? I don't, not sure what the exam objectives are. This is the best source for you to understand what topics are going to be covered on your exam. The exam objectives give you extensive information about what's covered in every single domain, in every portion, every section of every domain, everything there. And it just has pages and pages and pages and pages and lots of pages of information. I said it was a big exam. It is a big exam. Not only do we have a list of all of the objectives in here, which make for a great checklist, by the way, if you're trying to figure out, am I ready to take the exam? At the very end is an acronym list. A lot of you love the acronyms. You've already mentioned the website that you wish there were more acronyms. You wish there was twice as many acronyms on Security Plus, but I'm sorry, it's really limited to this. All of these acronyms are the only things you need to know. There's only 4 pages of them. There's a lot of acronyms. We do acronyms really well in this industry. So whether it's a 3-letter, 4-letter, 5-letter, 6-letter acronym, we're good at the acronyms. And they're all listed in there as well. That's your exam objectives. Make sure you get your hands on those. It's also free. Did I mention that? No money, $0. You can follow the link that's on my site, professormesser.com/objectives, to go over to the CompTIA website, or you can simply type into your favorite search engine, CompTIA exam objectives. It'll take you right there. It'll be your first hit. You'll see it easily. Get your hands on that. It's a great tool. It's a great tool to use before you start studying. It's a great tool after you finish studying, before you take your exam. Go get the exam objectives. We do one of these study groups every month. Come on back in July. We got one scheduled for July 27th. If you're wondering when the next event is going to be, you can always go to our calendar. The events calendar is at professormesser.com/calendar or professormesser.com/events. Either one will get you there. And you can see I've got others throughout the month. We've got A+ on the 12th and the 14th of July. We got Network Plus on July the 20th, and we'll do Security Plus on July the 27th. Always check back in. We'd love to have you here learning more about the Security Plus piece of things. I've already mentioned the course notes. Let's not go through that again. Of course you like the course notes, but stick around. Even though we've gone through an hour of Q&A, I'm going to turn the whole thing around so that you can ask me the questions. So I'm not going to ask you any more questions, or at least not a lot of them. Of course, we've always got questions you can answer online. We have our weekly pop quiz question at professormesser.com/Twitter, professormesser.com/Instagram, and of course, all of our YouTube videos are always available, professormesser.com/YouTube. We'll get you there. Don't forget about our vouchers. Don't pay full price for those vouchers. Go to professormesser.com/vouchers for discounted vouchers. And don't forget about the course notes and the exams. They're all on my website. It's not only, I think, a great way to study for this exam, it also helps support what we're doing here and allows us to do these live streams. So for those of you that have already purchased these study materials, thank you so much. You really are the one keeping all of this going, and we really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Let's now stick around. We've got more in the after show. We've got a lot coming in the after show. So stick around. We've got, I'll open up the chat. We'll do questions there, and who knows what happens after that. But we sure appreciate you being here in this first hour. Thanks for joining us. And we will see you next time on the Security Plus Study Group. Okay. Let's now put my face up. Here we go. And let you see. There it is. Hey, everybody. Now I need to change my lower third so that you know where to go to ask questions for what we are doing. We are, of course, this part of the show is really the after show, but nothing really changes. We're just sort of doing more of what we were doing, except in this case, I'm taking questions from you. I'm going to take anything you might have, and maybe almost anything that you might have. And then I will absolutely figure out a way to answer the question if I can. So it's a fun part where I don't have to really prepare for this other than open up the chat room and we'll get some questions asked. If you're on my website at professormesser.com/live, there is an embedded chat that's on that page. That's the YouTube chat. I've just embedded it on my website. And I'm watching the YouTube chat right here in front of me. So any questions you have about Security Plus, about IT, about being a cybersecurity systems engineer, about anything in the industry, about the temperature and the weather, I don't care. Whatever you'd like to ask, I'll be glad to answer them in the chat room. We can step through each one of these. There was a question earlier about some of these questions, especially the practice exams. And there was a question about specifically the practice exams for Network Plus. You may notice on my website, I have practice exams books for A+. I have some for Security Plus, but I don't have a practice exams book for Network Plus yet. So it really is not an oversight. It's really more about timing. I have to write them. I have to sit down and I'm the one that writes these, so I have to sit down and write them. And as you probably are aware, there is a big A+ update that's going on right now. So I'm finishing up the A+ update. As soon as that's done, I plan on immediately rolling into doing a Network Plus practice exam book. I think that would be good to have. A lot of you would like to see it. So I've been listening. I just haven't had time. There's a whole physics problem involved. Because right now we are shooting, we are editing, we are posting. Then we're shooting, then we're editing, then we're posting. Then we shoot some, and then we edit some, and we post a little bit. So it's just this constant cycle right now. We are in the middle of it. And so that's why I tell people, I'm going to write the book. I just don't have time to write the book. Somewhere in there I sleep a little bit, somewhere. But that's the real challenge. So yes, thank you for asking, because without you asking, I would not know you had any interest in it. And so it's nice to have people say, yeah, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? Because I put that in my list of things people have asked about and make that happen. So thank you for asking about that. Do I know if they will introduce a CertMaster CE renewal option for the higher exams? And I'm not part of that thought process or planning process with CompTIA. I'm a CompTIA partner. So I have a partnership with them. They allow me to resell their vouchers at a discount, which I think is nice, but I'm not involved in their planning process. So I don't know. I don't know what they're thinking. For those of you that don't know about the CertMaster CE, we've talked earlier about collecting CEUs, but what if, I'll give you a scenario, and this is a very good scenario because this happened recently. Someone came into our chat room and said, my certifications, my A+, Network Plus, and Security Plus certifications expire tomorrow. I don't want to lose these certs. What can I do? Well, at that point, it's too late to collect CEUs. There's too much you would have to do. Again, another physics problem. There's no way to collect all the CEUs you would need to be able to renew that in less than 24 hours. So that doesn't work. However, CompTIA has, for the A+, Network Plus, and Security Plus, CertMaster CE, the CE for continuing education. It is a single online or CBT, computer-based training app that allows you to go through a set of tests, quizzes online. And once you pass all of those quizzes, you have to get 100% on all the quizzes. If you don't get 100%, you got to take it again till you get 100%. So there's no penalty. You just keep doing it until you get it right. And then when you finish all their quizzes, you're now renewed. So I've often referred to this as you can pass this in a number of hours. CompTIA estimates the duration for Security Plus to be around 8 to 10 hours, depending on learner knowledge. I've found for some people it's much less than that. So I would not necessarily say it's 10 hours, but if you just have a day left, it's 8 in the morning, you've now said, oh my, this thing retires, it expires at the end of the day. And what do? You got 10 hours? You can do CertMaster CE, submit it, and you're done. You're renewed. You didn't have to collect CEUs. You didn't have to pay annual maintenance fees. You didn't have to take a higher level exam. You didn't have to do any of that. You just had to take CertMaster CE. There's obviously a cost associated with it, but the cost for Security Plus, $199 US, and it will renew your Security Plus, Network Plus, and A Plus all with that one CertMaster CE. So that's why I tell people that's a really good deal, actually. That's a lot less work. You have to pay just a little bit more. I think after paying maintenance fees, I think the maintenance fees are close to $150, right? So for another $50, you don't do any of that. You just renew your certification. Now, I don't know. My question to CompTIA, and this has come up occasionally with the folks I talk with at CompTIA, is I don't know if it really is the best way to renew your certification from a knowledgeability perspective. Is that a word? Knowledgeability? from you really learning the content. And I don't know that CompTIA loves it either, but it solves a problem for people. And so that's pretty good. How long does that last? Once you renew, it's 3-year renewal. So you pass your CertMaster CE, boom, renewed for 3 years. There you go. So that's the idea. I want to mention the chat room. John in the chat room with the $9.99 super chat. No message, just the message of cheer and $9.99, which I will absolutely take. Thank you, John, for your support. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you for being here, and we appreciate it. Thanks so much. We also got a super chat from Wayne in the chat room, another $9.99 super chat. Wayne also not big on words, just says, here's $9.99. Do with it what you will. Keep these lights on, which is not easy. Sometime, one of these days, I'm going to say, well, we don't have any super chats, so no more lights. Sorry, we'll do something. Nope, you got the super chats there, so the lights are on. Thank you so much for your support, both John and Wayne. We appreciate that. And Pyramos in the chat room with the $4.99 super chat. And a question, that's what I should do, is make you do a super chat for a question. No, you don't have to pay for questions. The question is, what certs do I recommend for someone who wants to become a pen tester? A pen tester. You want to test pens. Penetration testing is an interesting niche. It is it's one of those that there's not a huge number of positions available for penetration testing, but it is such a remarkable and interesting niche in the industry that there are some penetration testing certifications out there. And one of the things you should probably think about for pen testing, you have to know more than just how do I pen test. You have to know about how do networks operate? How does IP communicate on the network? How does TCP and UDP work? How does Windows work? How does Linux work? How does Mac OS work? Okay, I just sort of explained in a matter of seconds things that you would have to acquire over years of experience. So you can't just jump into being a pen tester, generally speaking. There's not a lot of jobs like that out there. You have to come to the table with some knowledge and some experience there. But if you do want to get into that role and you've already had some knowledge on the operating system side, on the client side, on the networking side, and you want to, maybe you've even had IT security experience, and now you want to get more specialized IT security in the form of penetration testing, you probably want to go get a pen testing cert. One of the most popular is the eLearn Security Junior Penetration Tester, or EJPT. They also have a number of series of certifications available out there. But those are probably the most commonly mentioned penetration testing specific certifications. So if I had to point somebody in a direction, if somebody said, I want to be a pen tester, I'd try to talk them off that cliff. I try to talk them off the side of the building and say, do you really? Because you can have a much easier time of getting a job in security if you're an IT security professional, because there are vastly more positions available for someone working in an IT security group than there is someone doing pen testing. But pen testing is so fun. It is so interesting that maybe you will find a job there that fits your need to be able to hack into other people's systems. So that's one that I think if you're in it and you're dedicated and that that's what you want to do, well, I'm not going to talk you off that cliff. You can absolutely go get a cert and go do that. I know people that are pen testers. It sounds like I'm trying not to be offensive. Many of my friends are pen testers, but they are. I know lots of folks that do penetration testing. They love it. They think it's fantastic. I would probably not do well. There's too much going on at one time. Maybe if I really get into it, I'm just in the middle of it, I do a lot better. But I think that's one where you really do have to be ready for that line of work. And if it's something you love to do, why wouldn't you do it? Pen testing's a lot of fun. So that's what I would recommend is the OSCP, the EJPT, and then maybe some broader security certifications like the CISSP and some of the others out there. I would not necessarily point people in the direction of something like a Certified Ethical Hacker, CEH. That organization has not impressed me. That is the polite way of me saying that. It has not impressed me. So that's another good example of, I think if you're someone who's trying to get into the industry, worry about the little stuff first. Worry about the basic knowledge first. Then once you get there, you can start building onto that and eventually work your way into a pen testing role. I think that's a great way to do it. So that's what I would recommend, is finding those very specific pen testing certs. Maybe just read through the exam objectives. It should tell you whether it's something that makes sense for the knowledge you have. So that's the problem. Yes, a lot of people do say a similar thing regarding CEH, the Certified Ethical Hacker. Indeed, nothing about that organization has ever impressed me. And I get to work sort of behind the scenes. I get a little bit of inside baseball being on this side of the screen. They've never impressed me at all, ever. Not just what you read in the news, not just looking through a Google search of CEH and hacking. Search for Snowden and CEH. There you go. Now you will never get a CEH certification unless you want your private information broadcast to everyone. I guess that's the way to do it. That's my very pragmatic and I think relatively polite, thank you, explanation of why CEH is either good or not. Ultimately, it's up to you. You're the one who gets to decide who gets to see pictures of your passport. So that's about you. You get to figure all of those asking about that. If someone has to have a CEH, there's a job. The only way you can have this job is the Certified Ethical Hacker. Okay, there's a difficult place now. You got to make a difficult decision and figure out what's best for you. Ultimately, you might feel bad when it's over with, but at least you got a job out of the deal. So I'm not saying never take that cert. I'm just saying that I would never take that cert. There, that was easy. That's and there you go. That's my sort of semi-annual explanation of why you'll never hear me talk about or have any training materials for CEH. I also think they have a pretty strong gatekeeping for their study materials. I don't think just anyone can create content for a CEH. I think you have to be licensed by them. There's a reason you don't see someone like me creating free content for CEH because they don't let you do that for whatever reason. No problem. You don't want me to do that? Guess what? Not going to do it. Not a problem. I hear you loud and clear. But that gives other opportunities for others and myself to create other types of content. And I think Security Plus is a good example of that. And who knows, there might be something else coming later on from me that will be non-CEH related. We'll have to figure that out. That is sort of the overview or the idea in my mind of pen testing and security in general. In security, when we're talking about certifications, a lot of employers, a lot of prospective employers will ask you for certifications that are specific to a particular product. So if you are trying to get into an organization, they might want you to have maybe a Palo Alto Networks network administrator certification because they do a lot with their Palo Alto Networks firewalls. Okay, well, there's an example of a certification type that probably is not going to help you if you walk into a checkpoint shop or does Cisco, do they even have firewalls anymore? I don't even know. I'm sure they do. They must, right? But whatever the Cisco firewall is these days that they bought from whoever they bought, that's one that you could probably do pretty well with those industry or company specific certs if a particular employer wants that. I'm really just trolling the Cisco people, so don't worry. I love Cisco. I've done Cisco training in the past. Don't worry. I don't hate the Cisco. I like everybody except for CEH. That's the only other option. There are some other videos. We talked earlier about renewing certifications. Somebody asked a question about renewing a higher level certification than Security Plus. So let me bring up on the CompTIA website, there is an overview for getting higher level certs and which ones apply to the things that we are doing. On the How to Renew Your CompTIA Certification page, this is just right from the continuing education and how to renew. That's what got me here. Let's choose a renewal path of a single activity. They make it sound so easy, a single activity. But I would like to earn a higher level CompTIA certification. So you can see they have a table here of the overview and eligibility for all of these. So if we click, for instance, on Security Plus, if you earn your Security Plus cert or renew your Security Plus cert, it will also renew your Network Plus and your A Plus. Great. Well, what about Linux? What does Linux? It renews the A Plus, and that's it. What if you earned a Cloud Plus? Cloud Plus renews A Plus and Linux. Or if you get the latest version, it renews A Plus Network Plus and Linux Plus. If you get the CISA or Pen Test, it renews either one of those and Security Plus, Network Plus, and A Plus. And then lastly, at the very top, the CompTIA Advanced Security Practitioner, the CASP Plus. You've got a renewal for CISA Plus, Pen Test Plus, Security Plus, Network Plus, and A Plus. Now, obviously, this is not something you can do overnight, is study for the CASP Plus and go pass it. It takes time to study for these. So if somebody showed up today and said, I have one day, what do I do? Getting a higher level certification, probably not the best choice. But you do have CertMaster CE for at least A Plus, Network Plus, and Security Plus. There is currently not a CertMaster CE for Linux Plus, Cloud Plus, CISA Plus, Pentest Plus, CASP Plus, or Server Plus. Just sort of where we are right now. Right now, it's just A Plus, Network Plus, Security Plus. Those are technically probably the most popular ones anyway, but at least that gives you a place to go with to break through those. So that's my recommendation as well. That one guy in the chat room, I'm not talking funny, that's his name. $20 super chat. Thank you for the super chat, first and foremost. There's also more. That one guy says, I'm new. I'm new. Where do I start to get into Security Plus? I've been watching the SY0-601 videos. Good. Doing a boot camp in August. I'm very curious about this boot camp and how it's structured and how long it is. Tell me how many days this boot camp happens to be, or hopefully how many weeks this boot camp happens to be. I would love to know. Please let me know. Am I jumping the gun trying to learn 601 from the start, or where should I start? I'm green as it comes. Well, your story is pretty common to pretty much everyone jumping into this. Oh, this is good. So I can talk about your boot camp because this is a term the industry has started to use a lot, especially with cybersecurity boot camps. And I have seen cases where a cybersecurity boot camp for Security Plus is 1 week long or maybe 2 weeks long. Could you imagine going to a boot camp and learning or trying to learn everything you need for Security Plus in 2 weeks? This is why I often will say in these study groups, boot camps in those short-term boot camps, 1 week, 2 week boot camps are relatively useless. They're relatively not useful at all because there's so much content you would have to know that there's no way to cram all of it into the time of 1 or 2 weeks. It's impossible. It's not improbable. It's not sometimes, it's impossible. It's a physics problem again. There's no way to use every moment of the day. If you did not sleep for 2 weeks, you would still not have enough time to learn everything you needed to learn to pass this certification. And so that's why I tell people a 1 or 2 week boot camp is relatively useless for someone walking in cold. But what if you did spend some time? What if you went through the process of studying beforehand, you learned the exam objectives, you went through the course notes, you watched the videos, maybe you did a little bit of hands-on with some labs, then you go to a boot camp. Well, at that point, you'll need the boot camp. You're going to learn everything in the boot camp that you've already learned. There's nothing more to learn. You've already done it. So that's why I tell people there's very little bonus, there's very little upside in 1 or 2 week boot camps. However, that one guy in the chat room says his boot camp 10 months long. That's not a boot camp though, is it? I know they use the term. It's more of a marketing term. I get it. They're using the term to excite you about the process of getting in and getting the cert, which I can't really argue with that. That's great. But in your case, it's a 10-month boot camp, 430 hours. That's fantastic. I love it. That's the structure you need. It's effectively a class. You're taking a class for 10 months. That's on the weekend, once a week, or whatever it happens to be. That's great. That's a fine way to do it, because you can go to your boot camp that week, then go home and do a lab, study up on that chapter, learn more about the topic, read news stories about it, then come back the next week and learn some more. That's the way you do it. That one guy says it's Nexus, University of Michigan. Michigan. There you go. They know how to do it in Michigan. They do it right. That's the way you're supposed to do it. The idea of having somebody in the chat room, Martin TXX in the chat room. You're from Texas or not? Used to be from Texas. I don't know. Says, I did a boot camp for Network Plus. It was only 4 days long from 10 to 6. They didn't even use the whole day. 10 to 6. It made my brain hurt. And here's the kicker at the end of the sentence. Not enough time. There's not enough time. That is not enough time. Can you imagine doing Network Plus in 4 days? There's no way to do it. So that's why I tell people just avoid anything that is a short-term boot camp. I need to really call it and specify short-term boot camp now, because it used to be all boot camps were a week. That's what they were marketing. Now everybody saw those boot camps were marketing it so well that everybody's calling their training class a boot camp. So now the boot camp, a 10-month boot camp, a 6-month boot camp, a 3-month boot camp, those are all great. A 5-day boot camp or a 10-day boot camp, not so great. So you probably know better than anyone whether it's best for you. I think a lot of times companies send people to these boot camps because they can get it done quickly. And I think maybe they believe that they can teach somebody everything they need to know in a week. And so then they can come back to work and get some more work done. But that's just not practical. It's not how it works. It's not how our brains work. That's not how life works. That's not how time works. That's not how the universe works. That's not how anything works. None of it works this way. So that's why, but if you look at the prices, let's do a quick Google search, shall we? And I'm not going to show this because I don't want to call out any one particular place. But I went to the Google and I typed in Security Plus Boot Camp. All right. As always, at the very first links you get whenever you do any search in Google are advertisements. These are companies that pay to get their advertisement at the top of this list. The first one is a CompTIA Security Plus training 5-day class. That's exactly what I'm talking about. And they say a 100% pass rate for everyone who passes. Every single person who passes 100% of the time. I'm sure that's what that means. How much is it? We're going to click on it, which costs them a little money. Sorry, people that made the ad. But let's see how much they're charging for a Security Plus boot camp. Do they even say view pricing? Does it take me to an actual pricing? No, you have to get instant price. You have to send them a note to say, hey, how much is this boot camp? And they actually, it's going to be good. They don't give you the price, but you have pull down options that say, how are you paying for it? Is it employer paid, self-pay, tuition assistance, GI Bill, or no plan? And then they say, are you interested in financing? Like I'm buying a car. No, I don't want to finance my 5-day boot. You imagine what that costs? That's got to be at least a couple thousand, right? It's got to be. $1,200? I don't think so. Maybe? I don't know. Probably somewhere in there, between $1,000 and $2,000, certainly for everybody who's in the boot camp. That's probably about right. But it's expensive enough that they have to ask you whether you want to finance it. So that's expensive. So that's my downside with this, is that I'm not getting what I need and I'm overpaying for it. if that's your kind of class, rock on. That's good for you. I think a lot of companies are just willing to kind of pay the money in the hopes that some of it will rub off on you, and then you come back and do the best you can. That's the challenge. It's an odd market, isn't it? It's every man or woman for themselves. You are really responsible for your own planning and training and knowing what's good and what's not good. And the blood boils when I see something that may or may not be the best that it really could be. Really quite a challenge. Built to Fast in the chat room with the $9.99 super chat, who says, as a working professional, I did a 5-day class, passed with flying colors. So I wouldn't say know it. No, I wouldn't say know it. Know it? I don't know. Maybe no. It's about $1,200 for the week. Well, you are already a working professional. You probably didn't need the class. And if you went 5 days and still passed, you didn't need the class. You did not need it. That's my point that you made. I wouldn't say no to it. Okay, got it. But I would. I think you're overpaying for not getting enough. I don't think the cost benefit is there, because I think if you were able to walk in and pass after 5 days, you already knew enough. You're already part of the industry. You already knew those things. Conversely, Ava in the chat says, company paid $1,000 a head for 15 employees. How many passed after the week-long boot camp? 15. We got a total of 2. 2 people passed. That's probably about right. One of them was built to fast. Who knew it? Maybe not. Not the same course. But a good example, built to fast, you were one of the 2 people in your boot camp that did it, that did pass. So that's my problem. It's not that there isn't information in the boot camp. Of course there is. It's not that you're getting a lot of information at one time. Of course you are. It's not that the person teaching isn't knowledgeable. They absolutely must be if they're teaching a 5-day Security Plus class. The problem is that you're paying way too much money for something that you're not getting a good return on. And that's the part that just drives me crazy. It's those 2 things. Maybe you come out ahead on that one. Maybe you pass after that one. Maybe 13 of you don't. That's the problem. So that's my at least back and forth on this one. There are good parts to it, like anything. There are good parts to it. There are bad parts to it. In my case, I think there's more bad parts to it. I'm open though. You want to convince me otherwise? Send me a note. I look forward to your emails. That's a good way to do it. Because I've been turned around on things. You know, I have an idea about something, and somebody says, "Well, here's what I did." Like, oh, well, I was wrong. Okay, that's a completely normal day for me. Thanks for attending. Going through that. Would I recommend testing for A+, if you already have Network Plus and Security Plus? Dustin asks this in the chat room. This is a common scenario. I will tell you, for those of you that have sort of watched my certification path, the first CompTIA cert I got was Security Plus. Then I got Network Plus. Then I got A+. I went backwards. And many people do. But mine was driven by my needs and requirements. At the time, I was working for a cybersecurity company. They wanted me to have a cybersecurity related or security related certification. I don't even think we were using the term cybersecurity back then, because it was all just rocks and stones. We didn't, and some electricity was in there. The Security Plus was an obvious one to get, and I went and got it. And I was interested in that, and I had come from a networking background, and I thought, let's do network. That was fun. That's how I am. Let's do Network Plus. And so I did Network Plus. And then at the end of that, I thought I should do some online training on these, but I really should get the A+ cert before I do that. Let's go get the A+. And that's what I did. So it was really the A+ that drove me towards this and making more training online at the time. So that's why I think it is a reasonable path if it makes sense for what you're doing. But if you've already earned the Security Plus, here's how I think it probably goes for a lot of people. They aren't in IT. They see a lot of people talking about cybersecurity on the television, on the internet, on the Reddit. They see advertising for boot camps for cybersecurity. They look at salary surveys and they see how much money people in cybersecurity are making. And they say, I'm going to go be a cybersecurity expert. And so I'm going to go get my Security Plus. What they don't realize, of course, is the people taking those salary surveys have worked up into that role in security. So they've already got a knowledge of operating systems and networking and clients, clients being Windows and the machines people use, tablets, phones, whatever it is. And then they've worked their way into that higher level position in security. However, there are now more entry-level security positions probably than ever. But you have to really look around for them. There's not a lot of them, relatively speaking, but there are more than we've ever seen. So I'll take, for example, if you're in a large metropolitan area, look for jobs in a SOC, SOC, the Security Operations Center. Because Security Operations Center are sort of the, I don't want to turn you off on the job, but it's sort of like a help desk, but for security. Okay, that's a good entry-level position. Look, from my perspective, my first job was literally working in the fields. It was with a hoe. It was in the summer. It was you get there early, you spend all day hoeing weeds, you hop in the back of the truck and they take you home. And at the end of the week, you get whatever that small amount of money is. That was my first job. That was the one that taught me that I don't want that job ever again. And it really has promoted my need to work in air conditioning. Ultimately, that's what that taught me. Did it teach me the value of hard work? It did not. It taught me that I do not want to be outside. It did teach me the value of hard work. It taught me the value of knowing that at the time, really to some degree still, college degree makes a difference. Applying yourself makes a difference. The knowledge you have in your brain makes a difference. And using that knowledge brings you opportunities that you would not have had otherwise. So I think learning these topics in security, even at the lowest level, is valuable because now you're in the middle of it. You're working with analysts that work on these vulnerabilities. You're working with penetration testers. You're giving and talking and conversing with people that are doing network firewall, next generation firewall management, SIMs, VPNs, IPsec, authentication. These are all great things to learn. And if you can sit at a desk in the air conditioning and talk to those people and find out what they're doing and sort of learn the industry from that chair, in 9 months, you can go work with one of those groups. There's a very fast upward mobility in IT, faster than what I think a lot of people realize. You see these all the time where somebody says, I worked at a help desk in 6 months. Now I'm doing networking, or now I'm doing security, or now I'm doing databases. Now I'm working with cloud. I'm doing all these different things. I've moved into another group because the opportunities are there, but you have to start somewhere. And I know that you look at these entry-level security positions at a SOC, and they might be paying $15 an hour. And you're thinking to yourself, oh, I could make that bartending. I could make more than that bartending. I'm going to go be a bartender. These are actual conversations I've had with people. I love IT, but I can go make more money being a bartender. Yeah, but you're not going to be in the help desk forever. You're going to be in the help desk 6 months, maybe 9 months, maybe a year. And at that point, you should be hopping off into something else. And at that point, you're making more money. You're making significantly more money in 3 years and even more money in 5. You're gonna greatly go past what a bartender would make very, very, very quickly. So it's more about an investment in yourself, an investment in time, an investment in knowledge gathering, and learning as much as you can and making connections in the industry. You may not realize it, but when you're working for these companies and you're talking to the people that are in making the VPNs and configuring the next generation firewalls and configuring the SIM and working with policies and procedures and IPS and cloud-based security and all these other things, you're learning the way things work and you're making connections with those people. And if you work with them well, you can then talk to them in 6 months or a year, or they might even come to you and say, we got a position opening up in a month. You should apply to that. Okay, I'll apply to that. And then suddenly you have a new job working with them. These types of things happen all the time. Those types of things happen to me. My last big job was a call out of the blue from someone I had worked with years before in the past. Had not, think about him from time to time, but suddenly get a phone call after years, and he goes, hey, there's this company hiring. They're a startup. Nobody's ever heard of them. They have a product that nobody's ever seen before that's going to change the world. You should come work here. They're going to hire me, and you could be my SE. Okay, let me go talk to them. And I think they didn't want to hire me, but they ended up hiring me anyway. I had someone working for them who was in my corner, who said, you're making a wrong decision. If you don't hire this guy, you need to hire him. And they did. And that was next generation firewalls. That was Palo Alto Networks. That was a completely change in direction for what I was doing. But I was not looking for the job. I was not going out to the websites. I was not doing any of these things. Sometimes the lightning hits and you just weren't ready for it. You just have to do what you can. Those types of things happen all the time. I hear stories all the time from people that say, I've created this group of people on LinkedIn. We're talking all the time. I go to industry meetings. There's people I've worked with in the past. One of them called me. That type of thing happens all the time. So I was one of the original systems engineers at Palo Alto Networks. I helped with taking one of the initial territories and planning and designing and implementing and doing professional services in the beginning. And SEs did everything. When you're with the startup, you do everything. I was shipping and receiving. I was tech support. I was everything. And then eventually the company gets big enough that you can really focus on individual, very specific roles. That was amazing, but it was something I was not planning for. I was not looking for it. I was not ready for it. It was a complete surprise. That turns out to be something that was really, really valuable in my career. Those things happen all the time. Just be ready for them. Don't worry that somebody over there bartending is making more money than you are. They're making more money than you are today. But I guarantee you in this industry, there's no ceiling here. Just keep going. And it's remarkable how quickly you move up to six-figure salaries and above doing things that, don't tell them this, that you like to do anyway. Don't tell them that you love it. This was fun. What a fun day I had at work. You'll never believe what I saw on this customer's network. The stories that I could bring home when we would take in a next generation firewall, a technology that did not exist prior to me walking in the door with it. This was a number of years ago. We would plug it in, and it would provide visibility of things that nobody knew was on the network before. And some of it was interesting. Some of it was shocking. Some of it was illegal. There were all kinds of stories in there. Let's sit down sometime. We'll have Coca-Cola, and we'll just talk about all the things I saw on people's networks. It was remarkable. That's what I really liked about that job. And you can do exactly the same type of thing. You just keep learning. That's one thing in IT, we never stop. It's not like you earn this cert and then you're done. You got more things to learn. You're always going to be learning something new. You're never going to know everything. So that's the way the industry works. I want to thank Nee in the chat room with the $4.99 super chat. Thank you so much. Not even a message there. There's some in there who says it would be cool if more teachers/professors taught material as well as you do. I'm going to take that. I'm going to take it. And where is personable? Well, that's very nice of you. That's quite nice of you to say. Thank you. That was very kind. I make learning easier. That's my new tagline. I think you just did it. I think that's the one. I'll put a little TM at the end, trademark on that one. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you for even making those comments. You didn't even have to pay for the super chat for that. I should refund your super chat just for saying that. Thank you. That makes me feel good. And it's very nice to say. And we just keep trying. We just keep doing. We just keep changing. We just try to make it to have things that hopefully get you the job or get you the better job. That's what we're trying to do here. So thank you for your support. And since we talked to that one guy who I just cannot say enough about because I just can't say the word enough, who says, thank you again. Also, Discord Security Plus channel is what they say you will walk away with from the boot camp. Am I jumping the gun getting the SY0-601? No. If anything, this content is out there. Security Plus content, especially the 601 content, there's so much out there. Now, you don't even necessarily have to go get the certification, but if you would kind of read through, watch, learn, take some labs, and do things before getting to the boot camp part, before getting to the class, I think you're going to be able to learn better. I think you'll be able to understand the words better that they're talking, because it's a whole different nomenclature with security. We have all these crazy terms that we use, and we put it in different contexts that only security people can. So I think spending some time talking security with other security people will simply prepare you better when you walk in the room for the boot camp. And if you get an SY0-601, if you get the Security Plus certification before even taking the boot camp, well, then you're very solid. I don't even know that you need the boot camp at that point, do you? Maybe the boot camp is not a Security Plus boot camp, or maybe it is. But learning a little bit before you walk in the door can only help. I would think on a training program that long that you would have at least some hands-on time already planned out. So there may be some great labs that are coming in that you would be able to take advantage of, because you've already been through some of the sort of the training videos prior to taking the labs. I think it's a great idea. It'd be a good one to do. So thank you also, both of you, for the $4.99 and the $5 super chat. We sure appreciate it. Thanks so much. Let's take another question. Do you think I can take giving or revoking people's building access as experience towards cybersecurity? Well, I guess it would help in one aspect, a very narrow focus of cybersecurity. Obviously, physical security is an important part of cybersecurity, of IT security. It is only one section of IT security, and probably would not necessarily qualify as cybersecurity if that's the only thing you've ever done is, sort of manage people's access to particular buildings or rooms. But it does give you some of that physical security experience. And so there's a way in. It gives you an opening. I think I would want to see more of your own security studies inside of that, so that you could say, yeah, I'm in charge of managing access for these buildings, but I've also built out my own pfSense firewall at home. Here's some reports I've created. Here's things I found from the IPS that runs in my firewall. Here is an Active Directory infrastructure that I built, and I added some security features, and here's what we did. I locked down this computer and made it a kiosk, and you can't do anything because I created these group policies. All of this counts in a conversation with somebody about security. So even though you may not have technically hands-on time with a Palo Alto Networks firewall, you understand the concept of the firewalls, of the reporting, of the policies, of the setting of rules. Those are good experiences you can have to take to somebody that you don't have a practical experience in a job, but you have practical experience on your own network. And at the end of the day, the firewall you run at home is not so unlike a firewall you would have in a larger organization. Just the bigger Palo Alto Networks firewall has more features and more functionality, but the concept's the same. Prevent bad people from coming into the building and getting access to our systems. That's it. That's what we're trying to do. It's a struggle. It's a war. That's what we're trying to do all the time with those. So that's why I say, yeah, you could spin that into a cybersecurity piece if you add some more to it. I would add more to that. Michael with the $1.99 super chat says, live story time. When are we doing the stories of what was on people's networks? We are not going to do that in a live stream. No. Not gonna. There is certainly things that I saw in certain organizations that I can't talk about because it would be inappropriate. But there's a lot of things I can talk about because I can keep them very generic. There's some stories I can talk about, but you know who I was talking about when I did say, well, this is the thing I saw on this. But the others, there's way too many stories. There's a whole world full of stories we can tell about things we saw. But right now, no, not planning to do any live streams on live story time anyway, Michael. But I thank you for the $1.99 super chat to get in there and get my attention with it. Not gonna. That's a difficult one. I think the customers we have would appreciate me not giving a lot of details about those. But I think I can create some very generic explanations of things we saw in the processes we went through. And when there is felonies involved, and in some cases there were felonies involved, those were interesting ones. Those were telling stories. And you can probably imagine the things we saw in a network that would cause someone to get taken away in those pretty metal bracelets. Just never a good scene. You kind of have to be ready for this in security. You are the one who's seeing everything. You are the one that's managing all of your data and protecting all of your data. And during the process of doing that, you will occasionally trip over someone who is doing something inappropriate. Sometimes it's not important and meaningless and maybe not safe for work. Sometimes it is felonious. And that brings a whole different world of concern and job function. I mean, you don't wake up in the morning thinking someone's going to get arrested today. It's not something you'd like to do, but you're the one responsible for putting these things together. And we mention it to some degree in Security Plus about how you're the one who has to collect this evidence. You're the one who has to protect the data. You may get legal documents that say, here's what you need to put together and to put into somewhere safe and not let anything happen to this data. Those are important things that you do as part of your normal job. So I would really recommend that. It's a great job. You just have to be ready for these unusual situations when they occur. And once you put yourself in that place that let's see who gets arrested today. You already know it's going to happen eventually. So when it does happen, it's not a surprise. Like, okay, we got our first one or our second one or our third one. You never know. There have been some weird stuff that I have found on people's networks. Happens all the time. So to follow up on this, so getting Security Plus renews Network Plus and A Plus, correct? So if you go straight to Security Plus and you skip A Plus and Network Plus, then you'll just get those when you pass your Security Plus, right? No, you do not. No, that would be great, wouldn't it? Nope, you don't. You still have to take both A Plus exams to earn your A Plus. You still have to take the Network Plus exam to earn your Network Plus. There is no other way to earn those certifications without first taking the exams. Sorry. You can renew them by taking your Security Plus, but you have to already have them to renew. They don't just suddenly appear out of nowhere if you pass your Security Plus. So sorry. Not going to happen. What a great idea, though. We should have something like that. That would be fun. But no, it's not. It doesn't work that way. You still have to take the A Plus exams. You still have to pass the Network Plus exam to be A Plus or Network Plus certified. They just don't give it away, which is probably good, right? GS in the chat room with the 99-cent super chat. Thank you, GS. No stories, no. Although GS did say passed A Plus and Network Plus. Thank you. You shouldn't be thanking me. You're the one that did the hard work. Congratulations on your A Plus and Network Plus. I'm glad we were able to at least help in some little way. You're the one that had to sit down and watch the videos and go through the motions and do the labs and read the books and do all of that. So valuable. And those are two great certifications to have. I often say the Network Plus is kind of the foundation of everything. And the A Plus is where you start. How do you get a job in IT? You get your A Plus and get in that first help desk position, stay there 6 months, and then jump to the next level and just keep jumping. That's the way you do it. Have you ever heard of people getting fired because of a 0 day? Not really. Not unless you're the one that made the 0 day, I guess. That would be a fireable offense. If you're the one who wrote the 0 day, yes, you could be fired. But someone being attacked with a 0 day, The definition of a 0-day is we didn't know there was a vulnerability and someone was able to take advantage of it before we had any form of mitigation in place. That's technically a 0-day. So how do you prepare for something you don't know exists yet? You can't really be fired for that. Now, if there's a 0-day, it suddenly was announced this morning that there's a massive vulnerability with Microsoft Windows and SMB version 1. Here's a ripped from the headlines, right? That's a real thing that happened one morning. Microsoft said, oh, guess what? If you have SMB v1 still configured on your systems, you could be hit with this worm. And people were being hit with this worm because it was a 0-day. It hit everybody. And so immediately, what did people do? They disabled SMB v1. And because they disabled it on all of their systems, they did a group policy, group policy in their Active Directory, or did the local policy on their local machine and said, disable SMB v1, or they went into the registry, they changed the registry entries to disable it. They got rid of that particular flavor of server message block. And they did it all in the morning. The instant they found out about it, they disabled it across the board, and their company was saved from having to be infected with that worm. But what if you saw it and you got a message that said, oh, look, SMBV1, a worldwide worm. Everybody's big. This is awful. Boy, that's bad. So let's get some lunch. What do you think? Yeah, you could be fired because you didn't do your job. That's probably where 0-day would fire you. That's not a good situation for anybody, especially when it could have been mitigated before it got to you. That's how you do this. Now, eventually they came out with a patch. So then you deploy the patch. By then it was too late. Everybody was infected. So you have to really watch these and be aware of them. That's the real problem. Now, there are weird situations you do see happen. There was the problem, you're going to have to remind me, was it Missouri that had the governor that was going to try to take a reporter to court over a vulnerability they found on a state website where all they did was do a view source and they could see teachers' social security numbers in the code in the HTML. It wasn't shown on the screen, but you could look at the HTML that was being sent across when you did a view source, and people's social security numbers were inside of it. And so they made a point that this stuff's just open. Anybody can go to this site, do a search for a teacher's name, and now know their social security number. And they jumped all over that. Wasn't Missouri, was it? What state was that? Chat room, you're going to remind me. This is the problem when you do live streams, by the way, that you can never remember what these are. And the governor was they were making a political point. It was Missouri, so I did get it right. The governor they did press conferences, talked about how this reporter was a hacker, that this reporter should be convicted of computer crimes. It was, to anyone in the industry, a ridiculous statement, a obviously political ploy by whoever was in charge at that level. It was. I think people who don't know anything about technology should never, ever, ever, ever talk about technology. And I don't mean that as you should ever. I mean ever talk about technology, because you never get it right if you don't know what you're talking about. You always get it wrong. I often say when I talk about these things, I'm trying not to be an elitist over it. But whenever you read an article that's in a non-technical journal, like a newspaper, just your daily newspaper, there's a technical topic covered in a newspaper, it is more times than not, I'll give you a little credit on this case, more times than not, it's wrong. It's just technically incorrect. Because the people writing it, they don't know. They're trying to interpret what a smart person is telling them, and then they try to put it into an article that people who aren't technical could understand. And the translation of all of those steps turns into something that makes no sense whatsoever to someone who knows anything about the topic. So that's one of those where you kind of have to take what you read and then try to work backwards to figure it out. Could this have been what happened in Missouri? That the governor, he doesn't know about view source. He's never right mouse click on a page and chose view source and looked at it. Or was this not? Was this malicious on the part of that particular political person? Either way, it's bad. Either way, it's not good. So that was a really ridiculous statement. Now, ultimately, they ended up dropping it. Smarter and cooler heads prevailed and said, we're not. The state, it's not a district attorney, I don't think, but someone at that level, the people in charge of deciding who gets to go to trial or not for the state decided, no, we're not going to pursue that. No, it's ridiculous. But boy, they made some political hay of it, and that is the sort of the way things work, not just in government, but certainly there's political hay that's made in private organizations as well. Someone very smart I used to work with, when they would see me get frustrated over the politics around things that were obviously computer related. When you deal with networks and applications and technology, it works exactly the same every time. It's ones and zeros. The ones and zeros go into the CPU. Then the ones and zeros come out of the CPU exactly the same way every time, without any difference in anything. It's exactly the same. If it's the same input, it's always the same output. To me, that's so calming. That is a perfect world, isn't it? You put it in, and when it comes out, it's exactly the same every time. But then someone always tries to turn into a political thing internally about budgets, about people, about hiring, about, do I have a title? And it used to frustrate me. And the person who was my manager at the time, very smart fellow, said, well, guess what? It's always going to be political. There's never going to be a point when you're working in these environments where there's not some level of politics involved. Everybody has an agenda. Everybody's looking to do something. They want to move up in their job. They want to make more money. They want a particular job. They don't like a particular person. Whatever it is, it's always going to be there. The difference is how you deal with it. That hit me kind of hard. Like, whoa, I'm not dealing with this very well. I am definitely not dealing with this well. And as it turns out, that's a ridiculous way to handle this problem, because it's always going to be there. What am I going to do? Stomp my feet until it goes away? I don't like the politics. No more politics. That doesn't work. You have to deal with the politics. You have to know that it's there and be able to work into it or around it. And you find nuance when you do that. It's not all about ones and zeros, is it? It's about people first and foremost. Turns out the computers are the secondary part. We sometimes lose sight of that, but that is so true, that all of this is about people being able to perform a function and being able to create a product, to be able to provide information, to be able to provide entertainment. Whatever it is, there's a goal with having all this technology around. But we often get stuck on the technology. Okay, but what version of iOS were they running? I'm just trying to watch a video. Let's not talk about iOS versions. How can I get the video to people faster? That's really where we sometimes lose the story. We lose the lead, as they say, in the newspaper world. So that's one where I think if we did a better job at the people level, this is very difficult for technical people, I realize, but if we did a better job at the people level, we probably would do a better job at the technology level. And of course, there's still going to be politics. So don't worry about politics so much. Just put a big light on it. Whenever there's anything that doesn't smell good or doesn't look good, you want to show everybody, look how bad this smells. Look at what this person's doing. Look at the light I'm shining on this horrible situation. And I think that's what happened in Missouri, is people finally said, Mr. Governor, I get the whole political thing. It's what you do for a living, blah, 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 blah. But you need to talk to your smart people who will get you off of this crazy idea that somebody looking at view source on a browser is a hacker. They're the hacker. That's never been the situation. That's never happened ever in the history of ever. And that turns out that's the way it worked out. It all went away Probably cost some money for the newspaper or cost some money for the reporter. And then everybody got their political points, and then we all went home. End of story. But wait, there's more stories coming. Don't worry. There'll be another one tomorrow, and one after that, one after that. There'll be more weird stories. We're really good at weird stories in this industry. So don't worry about that one. I don't think they passed any laws on that. Is it illegal now to show source in Missouri? That would be good. We need to put a bill onto the floor, making show source illegal. That would be perfect. It'd be a violation. Now, I have noticed that the government's, at least the federal government, has kind of changed their perspective of the white hat hacker, if you want to look at it that way, of people that are trying to find the vulnerabilities to make the software or the hardware safer, to make it more secure. And there is more of a push these days to get people finding these problems and to have a more structured process for making sure that those people are protected. There were significant penalties in the past when people have discovered vulnerabilities, gone through the proper channels to report the vulnerabilities, only to find themselves being in some cases arrested for being a hacker. Like, but wait, they followed the policy you set up to inform you of a vulnerability. Yeah, but they found one. So there had to be a change in how people interpret and understand how you identify these problems and fix them in a way that is safe, in a way that keeps data secure, and in a way that ultimately allows the researcher to benefit because they found the vulnerability. They deserve the glory. They deserve whatever money or fame they get from finding this problem and prevent it from being a bigger issue. You know, that's what we want to promote. And unfortunately, we didn't do a very good job at the beginning. We're getting better at it as a society, as a set of rules. We're getting a lot better about it. And so I don't know that I would ever get into that line of work. It seems still a little bit Wild Westy. Is that a term? It should not be. But it does seem a little bit, we're on the beginnings of making this a little bit better. But I see motion in the right direction. So that part's good. Did they reward the reporter for discovering the PII violation? No, they did not. Your reward is not going to jail. Your reward was not going to trial. That was so I guess, yeah, he got a reward. His reward, actually, if you were the reporter, he probably got some great press. This is the problem it's that whole Streisand effect, right? The moment that somebody is now pointing at you and saying, look what an awful thing you did, that now you get to stand up and go, I didn't do anything awful, and here's how I didn't do anything awful. And the problem is you never give somebody with a microphone that level of control, of that level of the story, because this person had a newspaper. Oh, you're going to call me a hacker? Let's put something in the newspaper about what an awful thing you just said. And that ultimately, I think, is what got that reporter off the hook, is that in politics, it's all people run on polls. They run on what people think of you. And so if the poll goes the wrong direction, okay, we drop it. We dropped it. Dropped it. No more. Please stop talking about it. We're good. I think that's what happened. We'll have to see how that happens in the future. This will happen to someone else eventually, and we'll see how we handle it next time. From the perspective in the industry, we were all sort of looking at them like, what in the world is wrong with you guys? Was not a good situation. I live in Florida, and we were looking at Missouri like, what are you doing? What's going? That's not good. That's not good, Missouri. You gotta work on that one. So they fixed it. So that part is good. And Florida's back to being what we are. So that's the key. That's the pieces of it. Question in the chat room. How do you recommend approaching studying? So far, I watched 6-year videos on the topic a day through the weekdays, practice questions on the weekends. That's a good way to do it. Everybody has a different way of learning. Everybody has a different cycle, and everybody has a different level that they can tolerate. And that's why I often tell people, find the way that works for you. Some people just love hands-on. They just want to do hands-on. Okay, don't read, maybe read a little bit of the book, maybe a little bit of the video, but do as much hands-on as you can. Other people want to be able to just read a book. They don't like videos. They can't watch them. It's not their thing. Hands-on, they don't know what they're doing. So books work really well for them. Okay. Some people love videos. They don't like reading books. They find that boring. Maybe they do a little hands-on, but they prefer watching videos. It's really up to the individual. I think it's more about, I think the style you have and that you mentioned is a good one. I take this much every day. I watch this little piece. On the weekend, we do some Q&A, and then we repeat it on Monday. That's a great way to do it. That's a great way to constantly go through those motions. I think that's perhaps, if that's your cycle, if that's the way you go through it, if that's your style of learning, keep doing that. That's a perfectly reasonable way to do it. The way that you tell if it's working, if you've got the right learning process, if you got the right study method, is study one of the sections from the exam objectives, watch the video or read the book or do some hands-on or whatever it is that deals with those topics. Then once you think you've done it, you've gone through your practice questions, come back to that section and see if you know all the topics in that section. See if you can explain to someone else every single one of those bullets. And if you can, well, you've got the right study method. If you're missing one or two, that's not a big deal. But if maybe only half of it's stuck, you need to do something else. You need to come up with another idea because that one didn't work. We need to come up with, maybe I need more hands-on. Maybe I do need a book. Maybe I need a different book. Not all books are the same. Some books are much better than others. Find the one that works for you. If you're not sure, go to Amazon, read through some of these books. You get a chance to kind of open the book and look through it and read the first chapter. See if you like the way it's written. Some books I've read through and they're just not good. Some are much better. So it just depends. Question about vouchers. Do CompTIA vouchers ever go on sale? Or should I bite the bullet and be grateful for the professor discount? CompTIA rarely puts vouchers on sale. They have some bundles of vouchers that they have. So they do have some that are exclusive to them. But they don't commonly, on a single voucher, they don't commonly put them on sale. It's very unusual. I think somebody in the chat room mentioned, yeah, maybe twice a year you would see something. Maybe they're having, it's an Arbor Day sale. It's their annual Arbor Day sale. I don't know. It's 4th of July sale, whatever they do. I think Black Friday is maybe one of those. That's kind of it. But everything's on sale on Black Friday. But very rarely would you ever see, if ever, CompTIA doing that. It's very, very unusual to see that. So I just kind of keep mine on my site. Find the one that works for you. Buy your vouchers from a place you trust. Buy a voucher with the price you like. It's up to you. Figure out what works the best for you and where you like to get those things from. But you don't commonly see those voucher prices going up and down on the CompTIA website. They're usually exactly the same every day, all day, etc. So that's what I would find, which is good. I mean, CompTIA they do a very good job of supporting their partners. I am a CompTIA Platinum partner. So, if they just kept changing the pricing every day, it would be challenging for me to know what's going on with the pricing. I'd have to change it on my side every day. And thankfully they don't do that. It's just pretty standard. Pretty standard to have those. So that's what I've seen in the past. I don't think they have any plans to change that. But always look around. Find the best way to do it. Go to professormesser.com/QA, get your voucher there. Why would you get a voucher out of a book? That doesn't even make sense. Why wouldn't you go to professormesser.com and get your voucher there? It's already discounted. You don't need a discount code. You're good to go. That's the way I like to do things. I think it should just be easy. That should be the easiest thing we do. Having to hunt around for a voucher discount, or having to hunt around for the best price, or having to wait for a certain sales price to go, that's ridiculous. I need to get trained today. I need the job now. Why would I wait to do that? So that's what I would do. Is find the one that works for you and go with it. I think that's the best way to do it. I think that's where I'm going to have to kind of cut it right there. Although we're sort of over time anyway, right? We were able to get through an hour of Q&A where I ask you the questions. Then our after show has been an hour and a half. So we really poured it on to get things done in the after show. We sure appreciate you joining us. We love doing these live streams. They wouldn't be any fun if you weren't here. I guess it'd be fun for me talking to myself, but then you wouldn't get to enjoy it, I guess. If that's the way it works, it's so much better when you're here. When you're not, it's not anywhere near as good. Thanks for being here. Thank you for your questions. Thanks for your participation. Thanks for the super chats. Thanks for just your continued support throughout the month. You're the one that really makes these things happen. We could not do this without you. If you did like this, we'd love it if you'd give a thumbs up to the video. It does help me on the YouTube side. My YouTube representative sees this and goes, hey, people like this video. That's really great. And they like to bring me in on other things they're doing and give me access to some of their new features because you made that happen. So thank you for doing that. Thanks for being with us. We've got another one of these next month. Make sure you check the calendar for the next live event at professormesser.com/calendar. Thank you for your ongoing support on the website and for everything else. We'll see you next month on the next study group. Thanks for joining us. And we'll see you next time on the Security Plus Study Group. Thanks, everybody.